I saw my husband and my sister naked in my kitchen. I can't move. If I move it becomes real and I have to accept what I saw and think of what's next. I came home from work early and saw my sister's car thinking maybe she was dropping off some food from her job. But no, I walk in and see my husband and sister naked in my kitchen. The kitchen I paid for. As soon as I registered what I saw I got into my car and left. I kept driving, just driving until I found the hotel I'm at now. I don't want to believe it. I don't know what to do. My sister, my only family, and my best friend, the one who's supposed to be there for me and support me. My husband, my person, my other half, the one who's supposed to love and respect me. The two most important people in my life have ruined everything. I've blocked them both on my phone. I don't want to hear any of the bullshit excuses they'll come up. I don't want to confront this. I want to go back to this morning when everything was fine. Comments. Commenters 1. Unblock them and just let their calls go to voicemail. Turn the ringer off for each of them in your contacts. That way you can get recorded proof of their apologies and excuses via voicemail. You may need that type of proof for your divorce. Commenters 2. Just from a banking standpoint, I work at a bank, file legal documents intending to separate, open an individual bank account, start your paychecks going there after you've filed your separation papers. I don't know what state you are in, whether it's a community property state or not, but keep everything as clear-cut as possible so there won't be issues down the road. Deal with them with your head held as high as can, don't take their shit, and cry when no one is watching. In front of them, be the badass that you are. They are the lowest of the low and they will prey on your perceived weaknesses. Best of luck OP Edit. I am not a lawyer and I cannot give legal advice. Commenters 3. I'm so very sorry OP, I can't imagine the pain and anger you must be feeling RN, sad face. I hope you have a way to get out this marriage safely, run away and don't look back. Fuck both of them. Commenters 4. The "my only family" part is what hit me hard. I'm so sorry OP. Reply, yeah, we cut contact with our abusive parents 7 years ago. Thought we were supposed to have each other's backs, always. Update. Sorry for not replying to comments and not updating, things have been hectic. I didn't think I needed to explicitly say this but by naked I meant they were but naked and fucking in the kitchen. I admit mentioning that I paid for the kitchen was odd and kinda funny. But anyone that knows me knows that the kitchen is my pride and joy, so yes, when I saw my sister and husband fucking in my kitchen it stuck with me. And yes, they did see me. When I got to the hotel I cried for a few hours and then I just wanted to tell someone, anyone. The two people I would talk to when something happened in my life were the two I needed to talk about and it was 11 something in the evening so I wasn't going to disrupt my friends' evenings and burden them. So instead I came to Reddit thinking not many would see it. The response I received was overwhelming. I want to say thank you to everyone that sent me kind words and advice. Thank you so much for all the virtual hugs. I know I only commented once, it's because I had so much to think about and do. I appreciate all the love and support. There was so much amazing advice given in the comments, although a lot of it was American-based I still appreciate it. But one thing I did see a lot was to unblock them and keep the texts and calls as evidence so I did do that. After posting and another good cry I knew that I had to get my shit together, I didn't have my sister or any family to help so I had to do it myself. I started researching what my next steps were. In the morning, my friend called me saying my sister contacted her wondering if I had been in contact with her. I told her what happened and she very kindly offered her spare room and her day off work to help me sort stuff out. I called in sick at my job and my friend helped get things done. I got in contact with my friend who works at a bank and she helped me start sorting my financials. My friend also found me a lawyer to consult with. After my phone consultation with the lawyer, I was so overwhelmed. I now know why so many women don't divorce their cheating husbands. It's such a lengthy, expensive, and emotionally draining process. I, fortunately, make a stable income and can support myself and we, fortunately, don't have kids. I have to remember that things aren't going to happen in one day. It will all take time. As for the house, unfortunately, his parents did buy it for us and to be honest after what I saw I don't want it. I will try to get reimbursed for my beloved kitchen, otherwise, it can burn for all I care. This has been super draining but I knew I had to talk to them. I already knew there was no coming back for my husband and when I checked his messages they were exactly what I thought they would say. I'm sorry. It's not what it looks like. We didn't mean for it to happen. Please come home. I love you. Blah blah blah. Just absolute bullshit. A small part of me thought maybe I could find it in me to forgive my sister as we only have each other. But after I opened her messages all hope was lost. She used the same excuses we heard our father use when he cheated on our mother and beat us. She said the same things our mother would say when she would excuse our dad's behavior and also beat us. I spoke to her this morning and asked her to tell me straight up who, what, where, when, and why. She told me back in July when I went on a girls' trip she was at our house and joked to my husband that I would cheat on him on the girls' trip because that's what always happens. He said nah, and they joked about it, but she said he could get even with me and they ended up doing it once. One time lead to 2 to 3, then to whenever they could do it. There was never any evidence or signs or anything that I was going to or even thinking of cheating. I told her we were done and there is nothing she could do to bring us back together. I later received a call from an unknown number. It was my mother, who I haven't spoken to in 7 years. Turns out my sister has been in contact with her and told her what had happened, and my POS mother, the same woman who beat me for breathing wrong, had the audacity to say this is what I get for taking her daughters away from her. It hurts so much. I know things are going to get messy and this is going to be a long few years. I've now lost all my blood relations. I need to get all my shit and find a new place. I want to show them that I can and I will thrive without them. Again, thank you all from the bottom of my heart for all the love and advice. All the people in the comments that could relate to me, I'm so sorry. Comments. Commenters 1. I'm very proud of you for taking charge and standing up for yourself. I know it's very hard, but you got this. You will get through this. Thank you for your kind words. It's pretty hard losing the only family I had, but I'm trying so hard to stay optimistic. Betrayal like this is fucking devastating. It will be long and hard and draining, but I will make it. Commenters 2. Fuck them. Family is more than blood. You happen to have some amazing friends, keep them. You can do it and you will make it through this. Commenters 3. Hold your head high and cut all of them out of your life. Do his parents actually own the house or did they just give money? Cut off mother and sister for good. Your sister had a piece of work. They gave my ex-husband the money for the house. So it's under his name. And yes, my sister can join my mother and do whatever. They're no longer related to me. Commenters 4. Out of curiosity, have you asked his parents if they knew what was going on? This will give them the opportunity to hear what actually happened rather than the lies he'll tell to cover his bad behavior. As soon as I started receiving messages from his mother, I knew he had been feeding them a false narrative. She's been calling me names for bringing my cheating backside and my slutty sister into his life. She never liked me because of my background and thought I should forgive my mother. Unfortunately, all I'll hear from them is the bullshit he's told them. Update 2. I actually forgot about this account until recently, and when I logged back and I saw so many people still commenting, messaging me and checking up on me. To those people, thank you for your kindness. Since so many still ask for an update and I've already shared such a big part of my life, I may as well give a small update. Back in October, my life was in chaos, but I was determined to soldier through it and show them that I can make it without them and succeed. I had to meet with my ex to talk about the house and he kinda gave up and we decided to sell the house. I was reimbursed for my beloved kitchen. At first, my sister would show up at my job and my friend's house, but once I told her that I would get the police involved, she stopped. I haven't seen her since February. I did hear from my pathetic excuse of a mother again, but that was also shut down and I have not heard from her since the end of last year. I'm from NZ, so my ex and I have to be living separately for 2 years before we can divorce. Although I want nothing to do with him, I'm not too fussed. 1 year is almost done. I started therapy, which has been healing. I wish I had gone earlier. I have moved into my apartment and I was promoted at work. I have also gone on 2 girl trips and had some extra fun these times as I was a single woman. And I've also just started seeing someone. He has been very kind. Thank you all again for your kindness. Brown Heart. Hope this is the update you were waiting for. Comments. Commenters 1. I'm glad you updated. You're happier. Never introduced the man to the family. Wouldn't put it past your sister to repeat her behavior. Cutting the toxic people in your life brings so much mental freedom. Living a happy single life after divorce is a kindness to yourself. Best update so far. Commenters 2. From what it sounds like, she's gone no contact with all of her family, sister included, the former because of the abuse and the latter because of the reason for this post. Stories number 2. Aita for cutting off my parents because they plan on leaving almost everything to my disabled brother. My 24F brother, 32M, is a failure to launch. He's never been very smart. He did badly in school and never went to college. He tried 2 different trade schools, welding and mechanic, but he basically flunked out of both. He works at a gas station now. My brother and I are our parents' only children. They always treated us relatively equal, until adulthood. They always insisted we earn our own way, they refused to pay for college or anything. I joined the military at 17, got an associate's degree while I was in, and my GI Bill went towards my bachelor's. I'm working towards my master's now. My husband and I have bought a house and have done well for ourselves. My parents however fully paid for my brother to try trade school twice. They've given him cash when he was behind on rent, and countless loans. They support him cosplaying as an adult, meanwhile they never paid for my wedding, education, nothing. I don't really care so much that they didn't give me money, but the disparity in how they've treated me versus my brother. Our parents are in their 60s now, and while they aren't that old, they're both in bad health and probably won't live another 10 years. They just recently started working on their will, and notified us that they were leaving almost everything to my brother. But they want me to be their medical power of attorney, manage their estate, etc. I told my parents to give my brother everything, and that I'm completely done with them. They told me to have some grace, and understand the fact that he isn't very capable and needs their support, even after they're gone. My mother had a doctor's appointment this morning, and asked me for a ride since she medically can't work. I told her to ask her favorite child or pay for an Uber. Things have been tense and hostile. My brother called me to apologize, and asked me to not be mad at him, but I told him that I'm not mad at him, I'm mad at our parents for not treating us equally, and he didn't do anything wrong. Ada. I meant to put disabled in quotation marks. My mother refers to my brother as disabled even though he isn't. She's had him tested for every kind of learning disability there is. He just has a below-average IQ. She thinks that counts as a disability when it isn't. Ada has no consensus but, OOP received mixed reactions. Relevant comments. Commenter 1, he does not sound disabled to me if he went to 2 different trade schools, welding and mechanic, just lazy. Odds are if he gets the money it'll not last him long, then he'll be looking to you to pay his bills. Reply, he's not disabled, but he's very unintelligent and has poor critical thinking skills. He doesn't really understand how to manage money at all, despite having been taught how. How is OOP's brother disabled? Medical issues, etc. Reply, he's not, he's just unintelligent. I meant to put disabled in quotation marks. My mother refers to him as disabled, but he's been tested and has no actual disabilities. My mother thinks being dumb is a disability. Commenter 2, if his IQ is that low he is intellectually disabled. An IQ below 75 is considered intellectually impaired. It doesn't excuse the implied favoritism. Reply, when they had us tested mine was 131 I believe, and his was around 80. It's been so many years I'm having a hard time remembering. It definitely was above the cutoff for being considered intellectually disabled, because I remember them being surprised that he scored above it. Did I plan to take care of her parents when they get old? Reply, I originally was going to take care of them in their old age, but I now have decided they're going to a nursing home if it's up to me. I'm done. Commenter 3, but they want me to be their medical power of attorney, manage their estate, etc. This is a huge ask even if you stood to inherit. That you're expected to do all the heavy lifting and then be your brother's keeper after they pass is, it's a hell of a lot. Why can't OOP's brother live with their parents to take care of them? Reply, they don't want to ask him. He's forgetful and they probably wouldn't be able to rely on him anyways. Update, January 5th, 2025, 2 days later. Hey. So the consensus on my post was a bit of a mixed bag. I sat down with my parents and I wanted to give an update and answer some stuff. My brother is not actually disabled. He just has a low IQ, just over 80. You need an IQ under 70 where I live to be considered disabled and to qualify for any sort of benefits. My parents have babied him because from a young age he wasn't as smart as other kids, and had a low self-esteem because of that, and was quick to give up on things when they seemed too hard. He does okay on his own now. He works and pays his bills most of the time. He drives and lives with a roommate. On to the update, I sat down with my parents and explained that I've always felt like they treated me worse than my brother. They always emphasized to me that as an adult you need to support yourself, and figure things out on your own. I had to join the military at 17 because I knew they'd kick me out when I was 18. My parents never offered me any support outside of raising me as a child. They didn't buy my husband and I a wedding gift, they didn't offer much of anything. Meanwhile they brag about having over $1 million in the bank, and having succeeded from nothing. Meanwhile they paid to put my brother through 2 trade schools that he failed out of, offered him money to start his own business. They've always bailed him out when he was short on rent. For me it's not so much about the money, but about the disparity in how we've been treated. It's obvious that they loved and cared him more, because they were willing to do these things for him, and not me. But despite them not being there for me, I've still done really well in life. I told my parents about all of this, and they were interrupting me and talking over me the whole time. They told me I'm not entitled to dime when they die, and that I'm an adult and I can handle myself. They just weren't understanding or even caring about my point. They told me I need to step up and treat them better, and that it's wrong of me to not take my sick mother to the doctor or take care of her because of money. Eventually I just gave up on trying to talk about my feelings. They just don't care. I told them that they're adults, and they're not entitled to anything from me. Just like how they were never required to help me, I'm not required to help me. I told them to complete remove me from their will, I'm not willing to be their estate executor, medical power of attorney, nothing. I don't want a dime from them at this point, and I suggested they spend all the money they've saved over the years to pay for really good nursing homes, and an estate executor, because I'm no longer willing to do anything for them. My mother was floored, and asked if I'd really put my own parents in a nursing home. I asked if they'd really let their 17-year-old daughter join the army to get sexually harassed by older men in order to go to school without taking on a huge debt. My parents cried and yelled at me. And I left. And that's that, I guess. I kind of feel relieved, like a massive weight is off my shoulders. I have a wonderful husband, we own a nice home. I'm getting ready to start working on my master's degree, and we're thinking about maybe having a baby soon. I no longer have to worry about dealing with my parents. They're adults and they can deal with their own problems, just like I've done with mine. And yeah, that's it. Not sure if it's the update we wanted, but it is what it is. TDLR, my parents wanted to leave almost everything to my older brother because he's not as successful in life. I feel like my parents have always favored him over me. My parents don't care about my feelings and won't listen to them, so I told them our relationship is over. I don't want anything from them at this point, and I'm moving on. Relevant comments. Commenter 1, honestly, I would have cut them off at the wedding if they had $1 million and didn't even give me a $20 vase or something. Who shows up to a wedding empty-handed? Reply, I've been to a lot of weddings and I would never show up without a wedding gift. It's rude. Not to mention my in-laws actually paid for the entire wedding, and my cheap parents became a major talking point. It was very embarrassing. Commenter 2, NTA, your parents are TAs. I know this might be a sucky suggestion, but you may need to go NC with your brother as well. He'll be stuck with their care, and there's going to be a high likelihood they'll tell him to reach out to you for help. Or your brother may take the easy way out and stick them in a nursing home, which they totally deserve. Reply, my brother's not a terrible guy. He makes bad choices sometimes, but at the end of the day he's still my older brother, and he tries to be good to me. I wouldn't cut him off without a good reason. Commenter 3, NTA, I like how they told you that you're an adult and not entitled to their help and you threw those words right back in their faces. Commenter 4, they tell you they're not leaving you a dime, yet expect you to care for them in their old age, drive them places and handle the estate when they die. Do they not see how ludicrous they are? Commenter 5, they've spent so long using you as their personal doormat they're not even able to break from their delusion that you'll keep presenting your face for them to step on. Congrats on your newfound freedom. Stories number 3. Aita for cutting contact with my childhood best friend because she demanded that I break up with my fiancé. Hey everyone, I, 21F, cut contact with one of my closest childhood friends, Mary, 21F, a few weeks ago. While I feel relieved she's out of my life, most of my family and mutual friends think I overreacted, and now I'm starting to second-guess my decision. I'm going to put some rather irrelevant background information here. Mary and I practically grew up as sisters. We were neighbors, and our parents started arranging playdates for us before we could even walk. From kindergarten to secondary school, we did everything together. If I wasn't at her house, she was at mine. I trusted her completely and never thought of her as anything other than my best friend. Things changed when Mary moved away for university. At first, I missed her, but over time, I noticed how much easier my life felt without her constant presence. I wasn't being criticized, guilt-tripped, or forced to justify my choices anymore. It became clear how much control she'd had over me. Mary had a way of dominating every aspect of my life. She'd dismiss my hobbies and pressure me to quit them, and if she didn't like one of my friends, I'd have to cut ties. You could call me a pushover, but when you grow up with someone like that, it's hard to see the manipulation for what it is. Things really came to a head when I met my now fiancé, Dave, 27M. He's amazing, kind, supportive, and everything I've ever wanted in a partner. We clicked instantly, and he's honestly the best thing that's ever happened to me. But, of course, Mary didn't approve. She immediately tried to plant seeds of doubt, saying he was too old, he'd cheat, or he was only using me. Thankfully, for once, I didn't listen to her, and I'm so glad I didn't. In December, Dave surprised me with a dream vacation, and during the trip, he proposed. Everything about it was perfect, he planned every little detail, and it was more magical than I could have ever imagined. I was over the moon and couldn't wait to share the news with everyone. Naturally, I told Mary, expecting at least some excitement, but instead, she downplayed the entire thing. She nitpicked the proposal, saying how she would have done it differently and what could have been better. It stung, but I brushed it off and reminded her that it was my proposal, not hers. A few weeks later, we met in person for the first time in months. That's when things completely fell apart. Out of nowhere, Mary told me I should break up with Dave. When I asked why, her reasoning had nothing to do with me. Instead, she compared him to her boyfriend, Julian, 22M, saying things like, Dave makes more money than Julian, and Dave can give you everything, while I have to work for what I want. It was clear she wasn't concerned about me, she was just jealous. She couldn't handle the fact that, for once, my life seemed better than hers. That was the breaking point for me. I told her to leave my house, and afterward, I sent her a long message explaining how hurt and disappointed I was. I told her that her behavior was unacceptable and that I didn't want her to contact me again. Since then, it feels like she's told everyone in our social circle. Mutual friends and even some family members have reached out, saying I was too harsh and should have handled things differently. They said, that's just how Mary is, you've known her your whole life. She's always been in the spotlight and gotten what she wanted. Some even accused me of breaking her heart and told me it was wrong to choose my fiancé over a lifelong friend. Even my mom said she expected better of me, and that's what's making me question my decision. Did I overreact? Mary has been a huge part of my life for as long as I can remember. Sure, she has her flaws, but we've also shared countless good times and memories. Am I throwing away years of friendship over this? Should I try to fix things, or was cutting her off the right choice? Since some people in the comments are claiming this story is fake, unfortunately, it's not. I obviously can't prove it to you, but honestly, what would be the point of making up a story and posting it on Reddit? I've never used Reddit before and have no idea what karma is or why anyone would want it. Also, yes, I let AI correct my text, mainly because I was incredibly angry when I wrote it and just kept rambling. English isn't my first language either. Combine these two things, and you can probably imagine that my original text was all over the place. For clarification, I don't know exactly what Mary told my friends and family since most of the messages I received were pretty vague. I also didn't ask my mom what Mary said had happened. I was too angry to have a calm conversation after my mom told me I was being dramatic, which led to me yelling at her. All I know is that Mary admitted to asking me to break up with my fiancé, but I don't know if she explained why she wanted me to. Lastly, my parents raised Mary like a second daughter, and she's always incredibly kind in front of them. I guess that's why they didn't believe me. Maybe they're just in denial because it's easier for them to handle. I don't know. But I get it, hearing something bad about someone you like for the first time can make you want to deny it. Update, Aita for cutting contact with my childhood best friend because she demanded that I break up with my fiancé. Quick sum up because the update is quite long. I visited my parents today and found out that Mary told them that Dave was cheating on me. My dad ended up believing me, but my mom is still on the fence and unsure of who to believe. Also, everything that's irrelevant to the update is put in italics, so if you're only interested in the update you can skip the italics part. I honestly didn't expect for so many people to read my post and to respond in such a positive way. Since some people asked for an update, which I also didn't expect, I'm going to explain what happened today. Also, just a quick heads up, this is probably going to be all over the place since a whole lot went down and I'm mainly writing this down to understand what exactly happened myself. But first of all, I want to thank everyone who was so kind to share their own stories. It was honestly incredibly mind-blowing to see how many people went through the same thing that I did, and still do, and hearing that cutting contact with their toxic friends was the right thing to do, made me even more sure about my own decision. To all those of you who were calling my post fake, AI, or karma farming, whatever that even means, I'm sorry to disappoint, but it's sadly not any of those things. This is something that's currently happening and I needed to get off my chest. I'm glad that you've never had to go through something like that, but judging by the comments, my story isn't as unusual/unique as I thought and as far-fetched as some of you might think. People often have toxic and narcissistic friends in their lives, especially when people around them have enabled their behavior from a young age, as in Mary's case. I'm also not going to have AI correct my grammar/spelling mistakes this time, so buckle up for some fun sentences. Also, if someone knows any good websites that can correct whole sentences, not just autocorrect, but also grammar and stuff, please tell me which ones there are. Me dealing with technology I've never used before is an absolute shitshow. There's a reason why I'm studying law and not something IT related. LOL. I originally didn't want to talk about/justify my relationship, it's simply not what my post is about directly or an issue that I'm currently facing, but I've decided to address it anyway. why? I don't know, but there were a handful of people in the comments calling my fiancé a pedophile/rapist, or saying that he groomed me, and so on. Most of these comments seem to be coming from a place of concern, which I'm thankful for, but some didn't. So yeah, that's probably why I've decided to explain some things. I wasn't groomed, love-bombed or anything like that. My fiancé is an amazing guy who never forced me to anything or rushed me into marriage, like some comments suggested. I'm marrying him because he's the one I want to spend my future with. Of course, we could have waited a few more years with getting engaged/married, eventually, but what's the point in waiting when I'm, and he too, obviously, sure that he's the right person for me. Marrying at a young age, I'm going to be 23 when we're officially getting married. BTW, isn't for everyone, but it's also not uncommon. With some people you simply have a feeling that it's going to work out great, and when it comes to him, I have that. Some other people also suggested that my parents took Mary's side because they don't like Dave, which couldn't be further from the truth. They love him dearly and have considered him part of the family after a few months of us dating. I'd really appreciate if people who are considering commenting solely on my relationship would refrain from it. It's not what this post is about, it's not the main focus, and I'm set on my decision to be with him. You can think whatever you want about my relationship, but at the end of the day, you don't know either of us or what our relationship is like. But now on to the actual update. We visited my parents around noon today, talked about everything, and tried to understand what had happened exactly. Turns out, Mary really was telling a made-up story while sprinkling in some truth here and there. Apparently she told people, or at least my parents, that Dave was cheating on me with a coworker of his, which is why she told me to break up with him. She said that this affair had been going on for at least 4 months and that she knows about it because she'd seen them together at a cafe in a different city a few months ago. Let's assume this would be true, why didn't she inform me or my parents sooner? Like, imagine your best friends, back then, boyfriend is cheating on her and you know about it, wouldn't you tell her right away? This is also why I can't understand why my parents, especially my mom, would believe her in the first place. According to her story, I got incredibly mad, kicked her out, and haven't spoken to her since. Now, some of it is true as you should know from my original post. For one, her telling me to break up with my fiancé, as well as, me kicking her out and cutting contact. However, the whole story about Dave cheating on me is something I've heard about for the first time today, plus it's completely made up. Just to remind you, she told me to break up with him because Dave's a better boyfriend than Julian, her boyfriend. By the way, I also feel so sorry for him. I can't imagine how much she must push him around. My mom said that she didn't believe Dave was cheating on me, but was disappointed in me for how I handled the situation, especially since I couldn't have known if Mary wasn't telling the truth. She thought that cutting off my best friend for being concerned about me was too harsh and that we should have talked it out. I've also assumed that she's scared to lose longtime friends when I cut contact with Mary, which also turned out to be true. Mary told her mother what happened, who just so happened to be best friends with my mom, and according to my dad, Mary's mother is mad at me for treating her daughter badly and accused my mom of not raising me right. So there's that as well. After my mom explained what Mary had told her, I went on to tell her what really went down. The jealousy, the manipulation, the lies, all of it, basically the things I've said in my original post plus much more. She didn't believe me at first and said that I was blowing things out of proportion, that Mary had good intentions but simply didn't know how to communicate them well. I showed her some text messages between Mary and me, told her about past incidents, and my fiancé tried to back me up as best as he could since my mom wasn't listening at all and kept defending Mary. To say that I dug deep and told my parents about all sorts of things is an understatement. I even went as far as telling them about a sex incident, so yeah, I didn't leave out any details. My dad believed me from the get-go, but my mom kept going back to how great of a person Mary is and how she just wants the best for me. She also kept saying how I've never had an issue with Mary in the past, not true, and that I'm now creating unnecessary drama because of a misunderstanding. Maybe I'm creating unnecessary drama, maybe not. In my opinion it's necessary, though. I've let her do whatever she wanted for far too long. At some point my dad simply told her to shut up and to stop making excuses for Mary, so at least I have one parent on my side. My dad's always been a very non-confrontational person and never really stood his ground, especially when it came to my mom, but I found out that he thought that Mary didn't have a good influence on me growing up. He apparently also told my mom that he wanted to limit the contact between Mary and me when we were younger, but my mom didn't see his point and let our friendship continue. So basically, this whole issue could have been avoided if my mom would have put her friendship with Mary's mother aside for her own family. Great. In the end, my mom said that she'd speak to Mary and ask her if what I've said is true, which honestly pissed me off. After everything I've told her, she still wants to crawl to Mary because apparently, what her actual daughter says isn't good enough. She tried to justify it since Mary is her daughter too, and it's unfair to just hear out my side of the story, alright? But you already had a heartfelt conversation with Mary in which she was lying to you completely. After she said all of that we started a screaming match. I know, not healthy, but it honestly felt so damn good to just let it all out. To say that I cried heavily out of frustration after talking to my mom is an understatement, and I'm so glad that my fiancé was with me because I sure as hell wouldn't have been able to drive home safely. But, on a good note, I got ice cream and we watched my favorite show when we arrived back home, which made things better, lol. I've not told my mom that I'm considering not inviting her to my wedding. We're not planning to get married until next year anyway, so there's still enough time for her to make up her mind about who she'd rather believe, plus I don't want to create too big of a rift between me and her. As for mutual friends who took Mary's side, I've decided not to respond to them. I'm not sure if Mary told them the same story that she told my parents, but I honestly don't care. I don't want to see Mary ever again, or at least not in the foreseeable future, and mutual friends would make that a whole lot harder than it needs to be. Besides, they're not my only friends or close friends of mine. Dave's also okay with me not running after them to clear his name. If this whole situation should leave this friend group and turn public, I'm going to contact them, but right now, we don't see a point in dealing with Mary's minions. That's something someone called these friends in the comments below my original post. Loved it. Right now I'm just hoping that Mary messes up her story somehow and that my mom is going to see her for who she really is. While she's been acting absolutely disgusting towards me and basically chooses Mary over me in this situation, I think that I can look past this. It's my mom after all. Cutting off friends is one thing, but cutting off close family, that's a whole different story, and I'll try to mend things the best I can. If she's going to stay loyal to Mary, I don't know what I'm going to do, but that's not something I have to think about right now. Once again, thank you for your positive and helpful comments. I've read all of them, but they kept coming in at a rapid speed and I didn't really know how to respond to most. Also, for those who went through something similar, I'm so sorry that this happened to you, and I'm incredibly glad that, as far as the comments go, all of you could find peace in your decision to cut toxic friends out of your lives. Stories number 4. Aita for losing my shit and screaming at my GF to get out of my house after what her stepbrother did. GF was over at my place 2 days ago. We're both 20. She has a stepbrother who's 23, before this I'd only met him a few times and he seemed like a regular dude. She asked if it was okay for him to come over too for a couple of hours. I said why not. He said he would get booze and pizza, and my parents were away visiting relatives for the weekend, so I figured we could shoot the shit. I have a little sister who's 15. They came over, and she stayed up in her room the entire time. We were all a bit tipsy and my GF stepbrother asked if he could use the washroom. I pointed him to the one down the hall. My GF and I were preoccupied and didn't even realize how much time he was taking until we heard raised voices upstairs. We immediately went up to check what was going on and found my sister crying. Dude had gone up instead of using the washroom. My sister's door had been ajar, so he apparently walked into her room. All details I managed to wrangle from my crying sister BTW. She was taken by shock and was trying to stay calm, but he wasn't leaving. He was trying to chat her up. She told him to GTFO and he closed the door behind him instead, which is why she started freaking out. She tried to get past him to open the door and he grabbed her, but she managed to open it anyway. I'd reached the landing by then, so he backed off. Obviously I was super fucking pissed. There was a lot of screaming going on, lots of accusations. We were all drunk except for my sister. After getting the story from her, GF's stepbrother was stuttering and deflecting. I'm pretty sure I threatened violence at some point. My GF was trying to be the mediator. She said I had to calm down and couldn't fly off the handle based off word of mouth. But I was there, I saw my sister crying in panic. I know what she's like and I know she wouldn't lie about something like this. Why would she? I told her stepbrother to get out of my house. My GF kept saying we could sort this out and have a proper conversation, but I didn't see what conversation was there to be had. Eventually she said, what if my sister was lying? In front of my sister's face. I asked her what on earth would make her think that, and she said she's a kid and could be making it up for attention. Like the title said, I lost my shit. I told her to get the fuck out and afterward she kept calling me, but I ignored everything. The dust has settled a bit. I went over everything again with my little sister. She promised me it had happened the way she was telling me. She told me she was scared he was going to SA her. My GF texted me this morning saying I shouldn't have raised my voice like that and I scared her. I thought of apologizing then, but she still hadn't said a word about apologizing to my sister or addressing the issue with her stepbrother. I only replied that we had to talk, and she said there's nothing to talk about, there's no hard proof, in her words, and the stepbrother ended up doing nothing, so she told me she would deal with him, and I should drop it. If I'm the asshole for the way I handled this, maybe if cooler heads prevailed this silent treatment wouldn't have happened and we could have discussed everything. What to do from now on either. I love that girl, I don't want us to be over, so I want some advice on where to go from here too. Update, Aita for losing my shit and screaming at my GF to get out of my house after what her stepbrother did. First off, thanks everyone who commented on my previous post. I tried to read as many comments as I could. I got some great advice. My GF asked me yesterday if we could talk in person. I agreed, we met at a public park. She showed up already looking on the verge of tears. Your comment was goat, I basically said it word for word to her, lol. She let me speak and was silent for a long time, before she said she was sorry for the way she had reacted. She told me she had been drunk and panicked and hadn't been thinking clearly, and was trying to stop it from becoming a fight. We discussed her stepbrother. She told me he has a weird streak and acts oddly sometimes. She told me he genuinely could have made a mistake and didn't mean any harm. I asked why he'd gone upstairs in the first place, and why he'd shut himself in with my sister on finding out he was in the wrong room. No answer. I asked how was she so sure he had no perverted intentions. No answer. Some of you suggested that the stepbrother might have had a history and even might have done something to her. I didn't outright say it, but I was implying it. I kept saying, what if he had gone further, what if he's assaulted someone before and you don't know about it, etc. I asked if there had been incidents like this before, and how she could possibly downplay what happened. She didn't have anything to say, but again, at that point she was too choked up to speak properly, so I don't think she could have answered even if she wanted to. Anyways, I wasn't there to listen to excuses or justifications, and I told her that. She asked me if we were over, and I said the only way we could move forward was if she apologized to my little sister, and then stopped all contact with her stepbrother. I just don't see a scenario where my sister feels comfortable around him again. She told me she didn't want to lose me, but she couldn't do what I asked from her. So I told her yes, we're done. My parents came back this morning BTW. Like I said, they had been out of town at relatives' place. I hadn't told them about this over the phone, I just said an incident had happened and I would explain when they got back. My sister asked me to speak to them on her behalf and I told them everything. My dad gave me a lot of shit, rightfully so. He says he wants to speak to my ex's parents about this, let them know what their son did. Police here are about as useful as tits on a bull, but we discussed it and we're going to file a report, /auto de noticia anyway. I highly doubt it will go anywhere, but at least it will be a record in the system. My sister is doing better. She was really shaken up. She asked if she could sleep in my parents' room or mine for a bit. We will probably arrange a therapy or counseling session for her, and let her decide if she wants to continue. I'm going to take her bowling and then we'll get food. Just the two of us, so I can also apologize on my part. I feel upset. I feel guilty actually. I trusted my ex and me being naive put my little sister in danger. I've always thought I was a responsible person and this happening when I was supposed to be in charge is fucking me up. I'm pissed at myself NGL. But we move. My favorite comments to read were the ones telling me what to do to the stepbrother. I don't ever want to see his face again, but in case I do, someone LMK if you have a woodchopper lying around. Thanks again everybody. Edit, some things. People have asked if I can run a background check or something. I don't think it's legal for a civilian to do that in my country, Portugal, and if I can request one, I'll see though. Also to everybody commenting about underage drinking, I was so confused. That's not a problem here LMAO, I won't be incriminating myself or anything by filing a report, so DW. Stories number 5. Aita for telling my lesbian ex-wife that her partner cannot be my son's mom. Hi all, throw away because my friends are not completely aware of this current situation. I, 35M, was married to my ex-wife, 34F, for 7 years. 2 years ago my ex-wife came out as lesbian. This came as a complete shock to me. She and her partner were co-workers who had an affair since she joined the company a year before our divorce. We have a son together, 8M, this came as a complete shock to me. I was heartbroken and devastated. I felt betrayed as I had spent 7 years of my life with this woman and it all felt like a lie now. When I confronted her she told me that she had to live her truth, and that she tried to suppress her identity because she didn't come to terms with it till she met her partner. When I asked whether she loved me she told me that while she loves me it's different than how she loved her new partner. This broke my heart even further. The divorce was quick as she did not want anything from me and we agreed to a 50-50th split of custody, but I decided to go no contact with her and handled the custody transfer process through my sister, 27F, whom I moved in with after the divorce. I sold the house and we mutually agreed that the excess money from the sale will be in a college fund for our son in the future. I could not bear to stay in that house anymore as it kept reminding me of her betrayal. For context, she introduced her partner as her work friend, and I believed her. I had no reason to suspect anything and they had several girls' nights, but I figured that they were probably using these as cover for the affair. For 6 months I was in a depressive state because I didn't know where I went wrong. But this is one of those scenarios that anything I would have done wouldn't have been able to make it better. This made me even more depressed, and the fact that all the vows and little things that she said at our wedding were all just lies trying to keep up a ruse made it even worse. The two people that got me through this state was my sister, whom I am eternally grateful for helping with her nephew and helping me while maintaining her career. The other person that got me through this was my college ex-girlfriend. Around 4 months after the divorce we reconnected at a reunion and she really helped through the worst of it as a friend. Around a year after the divorce, we started officially dating, and I introduced her to my son. During all this time my ex's partner had been having limited interactions with my son. This was not because of me saying anything, but my ex-wife wanted him to adjust to his new reality. My son is in that weird age that he understands what's going on but he doesn't really understand what's actually going on. If you know you know. He understands that mommy has a girlfriend and that me and his mom are not together anymore. I'm pretty happy considering we didn't really talk to him about the LGBTQ+ stuff because we had decided that we can talk about this when he's a bit older, but I'm happy that he's come to terms with the divorce. Around 8 months ago, my ex said that she was officially moving in with her partner and that she was engaged. At this point I still was on no contact except brief conversations that concerned our son. She invited me to the wedding but I declined. They were planning to have a destination wedding in Spain where her girlfriend lives. She wanted to take our son to the wedding and he would have to miss school for a week since she wanted him to meet her girlfriend's family as well. I told her that missing school for a week does not make sense and that she should plan her wedding when he has vacation since she doesn't have a fixed date yet. She argued that most likely they won't have a date that will align with his vacations and that they are getting married as soon as possible. I relented and agreed since I didn't want to interact with her anymore and it was well within her rights to have her son at her wedding. The problem started when my son came back after the wedding. He was supposed to stay with me since we have a flexible week-in week-out custody arrangement. She wanted to take my son on her honeymoon so that he has a chance to bond with his new stepmother. I told her that she had already had 2 weeks with him since she had custody for a week before the wedding and that I wanted to spend some father-son time with him. I told her that it well within my rights and that she should go spend some time with her new wife. She argued that since our son's interactions with her partner were limited because of her busy schedule, that this was a great opportunity for them to bond. I told her that she had 2 weeks for him to get to know her partner. She said that they were busy with the wedding and did not have time. I told her that I had taken vacation days for us to go to a motorcycle expo and build a Lego set, 2 things that my son absolutely loves. She kept arguing and I finally told her that the custody was placed for a reason and that's the one thing I will not negotiate on. She got angry at me and left. Me and my son had a great experience. I even got him one of those kid-sized motorcycles since he liked them so much. Over the next few weeks we returned back to our week-in/week-out routine. One day I find that my ex posted a photo shoot of them and my son under a caption of lesbian mommies. I thought that it was post and it probably meant nothing but it was showing them as a family and something about that did not sit right with me. When I got my son for the week I asked him that if his mom was saying anything to him. He relented a bit but told me that his mother had been trying to convince him to call her partner his mom. This was a shock to me as I never expected my ex to do this. Then again I've been wrong about these things before. I asked him if that's something he wanted and he told me that he is much more comfortable calling her by her first name and that he feels weird with calling 2 people mom. I told him it's okay and that he shouldn't feel pressured to do anything. I called my ex and asked her to meet up because this was serious and I wanted to discuss this. I confronted her about this and she told me that since her and her partner were married, it's only natural for our son to have 2 moms now. I told her that it's not okay for her to try and convince him into calling her partner his mom because she is not his mother, she doesn't have an active parenting role in his life and that any major parenting decisions require the 2 of us. She tried making an argument that since me and my girlfriend were becoming serious now and that eventually I might want him to start calling her mom. I told her even if we become serious I won't try and convince our son to start calling her mom, because he already has 2 parents and he doesn't need more. Then she dropped the bombshell on me. She told me that she and her partner were hoping that eventually down the line they can file for adoption. I'll still be able to visit and see my son but she wanted her and her wife to have legal guardianship because they wanted to build a new family with them. I told her absolutely not and that our partners have no say in our kids' lives. She accused me of being homophobic for denying her the right to a complete family and I told her while her life is her choice our son's life has to be a thing that we decide ourselves. I ended the conversation there and told my son to tell me if her mother tries to force him to do anything that he doesn't want to do. 3 weeks later I found out that my ex had enrolled him in Spanish lessons that he told me that he hated doing. For context, my ex is Latin and her partner is Spanish, so they are more comfortable talking to each other in Spanish. We made the decision to raise our son in English because it made sense at the time, as she speaks English better than Spanish and I don't speak any Spanish. When I discussed this, she told me that she would like her son to connect more to his heritage. I said that I don't have any problem with that, but we have tried this several times before when we were married and he had shown zero interest in it. She told me that this time might be different since he will have 2 Spanish speakers at home. I told her that I am in all favor of bilingualism because 2 languages are always an advantage, especially for kids, but if he doesn't want to do it there is no reason to force him to do it, maybe try another language. She then accuses me of denying our son his roots and goes on a tirade of accusing me of denying our son his identity and coming back to me denying her right to a family. My girlfriend usually stays out of these matters, but she advised me to contact my lawyer and see what they can actually do. My lawyer told me that even if they send an adoption notice, I can contest it and it would take something exceptional like abandonment etc. for my contest to get rejected. My ex keeps posting our son as a part of her new family and it's honestly started to trigger me. 2 weeks ago I interacted for the first time with my ex's new wife after the divorce. She contacted me and asked to meet up. She told me that my ex had finally started to recover from the social trauma of coming out and building a new life with her and that I am now getting in the way of the happiness. She accused me of being emotionless and uncaring through our divorce and how I guilt-tripped her into agreeing to my demands of 50-50 custody, and how I should just agree to the eventual adoption in a few years because she has always wanted a son and that I will still remain my son's dad and I can still visit him. I told her that I don't care what her emotional state was during the divorce and that my demands were fair even to the most irrational person. I told her that if they want to create this image of perfect family, then they should have another kid that has no connection to me. I feel like all this has started to affect my son more than anything. He is a lot less happier than he was just a few months as we had started to adjust to this new reality. For context, since I know this is gonna come up eventually, the emotional trauma of my ex coming out is basically the fact that her family effectively disowned her after coming out. Her parents don't talk to her anymore, while my son has plenty of interactions with his maternal grandparents when he's with me. Those 2 combined make significantly more money than I do alone. However, my ex-wife makes less money than me, but her partner is in a senior position so she has more stability. This is also an argument my ex-wife used when we discussed adoption, since they can then send our son to a private school and generally give him a better life. I don't know if this is a factor, but the recent elections may have caused this because they are worried that they might not be able to adopt soon, but they don't want to adopt my son now but in a few years, so I doubt this to be true. Update, Aita for telling my lesbian ex-wife that her partner cannot be my son's mom. Hi all. It seems that my draft went missing somehow and I'm sorry for posting a couple of empty blocks. Original post is here. It's been crazy seeing everyone's reactions to the situation and I wanted to share a quick update with you all. First of all, I'd like to clarify that my son and I have been going to therapy since the divorce. He was doing quite well until the whole mom saga happened. My in-laws disowned her after she came out. They were not even aware about the affair when she came out to them. They still spend time with my grandson under the condition that they don't badmouth my ex and don't preach their views to him. They agreed and said that they valued a relationship with their grandson over any political view they might hold. I have been a part of every interaction that they have had with him because I was worried they might say something. Thankfully, this has not been the case. Her extended family has said to me that they have all cut her off as well, some for the affair and some for her being gay. Our mutual friends also cut her off because of the affair. All our mutual friends were my work buddies and their spouses' partners. I did not ask them to do anything, they came to the decision on their own. I was actually glad when she told me that she had made a friend on her own, as she used to complain about not liking her colleagues. We all know how that turned out. I'm pretty sure they're not planning to skip the country. I have all my son's documents and we decided it during the divorce because she was still figuring out where to go, and since I was moving in with my sister, the chances of them getting misplaced were low. I have also had no demands for any documents and she returned the passport to me when we came back. The whole adoption thing probably stems from the fact that my son has a very close relationship with his mother. The only times he has really complained to me is when she asked him to call her partner mom, and that she was making him do Spanish classes that he did not want. We did everything for him equally during our marriage, but I had to travel out of state to my parents frequently during COVID because they were sick with pre-existing conditions and couldn't take care of themselves. My sister was on an assignment abroad at that time. My sister also agreed with this. Please let me know your thoughts. I listened to people and contacted my lawyer, who is also my friend, today morning. He told me the same thing as last time and that it would take something really unusual for the adoption process to go through, like child abandonment. He also said that they a bunch of idiots that have no idea how the law worked. He also told me that if the whole, "we wanna adopt him," is a real thing and if she is talking shit about me to my son and I could prove it, I could get custody. This has not been the case as I've not heard my son say that his mom says bad things about me. This brought me a sigh of relief. I plan to contact my ex today with the following conditions. We both install parenting apps and document all interactions. No more mention to me or my son regarding adoption or calling her partner mom. No more posting images of my son as a part of their perfect queer family, because frankly, I don't want my son photos on the internet when he is so young and he can decide what he wants when he is older. I plan to talk to my ex in a couple of hours. Please let me know what you think about this. Update 2. Final update, Aita for telling my lesbian ex-wife that her partner cannot be my son's mom. HIL. So I talked to my ex today. She was busy yesterday and I wanted some more time to gather my thoughts. When we met, I put forth my demands. She told me that the parenting app idea seems fine and that she has no problem with it. She got sad when I told her to drop the idea of adoption and calling her partner mom as it's just not gonna happen. She told me that her family was pressuring her to settle down. I proposed after a year of dating and I did not know this, and getting pregnant so soon after getting married was not what she had in mind. She got pregnant 1.5 years after getting married. Is that soon? She told me that she was in the closet all her life because of her parents and that she thought marrying me would cause her feelings to subside and that she was happy until she met her partner. She did go through postpartum depression after giving birth, but I did not know that she didn't want to get pregnant so soon. She then told me that they, her wife and her, that the reason they wanted to adopt my son was because she wanted to start new. She then said that she was never really happy during our marriage and that with her new wife she could have the family she always dreamt of having. She didn't want my son to grow up to resent her for being a lesbian as he doesn't have either any exposure to people like her apart from her and her partner. Look, I have to honest here, I don't know any gay people nor is anyone in my friends or family gay. We never talked about these things because it simply doesn't come up in our daily life, but that doesn't mean me and my son has no idea who they are, especially after the divorce. I told her that this is not going to happen and that he has had a lot of exposure to people from her community. I told her that seems like a bullshit reason for separating my son and me and that she is making up some random reason to make her seem like it is. After some arguing she told me the real reason why she and her partner want to adopt my son. Reddit is crazy for their prediction abilities, like honestly, wow. Apparently they wanted to adopt my son because her wife and her are considering moving to Spain in few years. I told her that she can't do that and that the legal framework supports me and my rights in both countries. She told me she knew this and that's why they wanted to get me to sign adoption. I told her that she was crazy, that she in no way is able to do this as she still need my permission to take him out of the country as when she did when they got married in Spain. I also read a comment yesterday on the update and researched a bit on the laws regarding this, so I know this is not happening. She told me again that they have done their research, that this was to see if I would agree. In case I agreed they would consider moving, and in case I don't they won't, because she doesn't want to be separated from my son. I again emphasized that this is not going to happen and that if she tries anything or says anything to my son, I will sue for full custody. She got sad again and told me that they wanted to check with me first. I told her, in what world would you expect me give you and your wife full custody? First you divorce me, leave for me a woman and then expect me to sign over my child and act like nothing happened. I told her from this point on we will document everything, every interaction we have, and that if I even get a whiff of you trying to pull something I will sue for full custody. She got a bit scared at the idea of losing full custody, i.e. she didn't really consider me doing that and she agreed. I then told her not to paint this picture of a picture-perfect queer family that they are trying to do, because that is not going to happen. Our son has a mom and a dad that he spends half his time each with, not two moms. He is not your affair partner's son. He is your son and mine. If you want a child with her you can do so on your own. I then told her that the courts are more likely to side with me than you in this case because of the thing you have been trying to do and the fact that I work from home and spend more actual time with him than you and your wife. I have been trying for him to have a stable relationship with both parents since the divorce because I don't want him to resent either of us, but if you try to remove me from his life, I will sue for full custody and deal with any resentment he has for either for us. I didn't want to argue anymore and I left the room. I secretly recorded the conversation because I wanted to have proof in case anything happens in the future. Honestly, Reddit, I have been very angry at my ex since the divorce. I have not shown it around her and my son because I don't want her to use this against me in any way and have been going to therapy, but I am still internally angry. The comments she made today about our marriage really hurt me even more. I have spent 7 years with this woman and her betrayal still makes me angry to this day. When I got home, I contacted my lawyer friend and he again reiterated that they would have to kidnap him. I asked him if there was anything else we could do and he said that the current agreement is very thorough, we have made sure of that. If I want full custody or not is up to me, but I have to be sure that I want to put me or my son through the whole process. I don't want my son to grow up without either of his parents, as that is just not healthy for him. That is why I want Sue for full custody now. If they are stupid enough to kidnap him, I'm sure they are not. Then the law sides with me anyway. I know what position her partner is at their workplace, so I know they are making good money to leave it all behind for no good reason. As for the passport thing, I have all his documents, and all things such as notifying travel, hospital visits, and others are already in the signed custody agreement. We already have a legal framework for all this. I am not going to sue for full custody now because I don't want that for my son. My ex-wife is still good mother and loves him, and he enjoys spending time with her, plus my son is the type of person to openly voice out what he doesn't find okay to me, so I will know if they continue any of their nonsense. On a more positive note, y'all, I'm not against Spanish lessons, but he doesn't like them. I was just suggesting that he try some language he like. There are other languages out there. I didn't say it to my ex then, but now I know that she was trying for him to learn Spanish because of the Spain thing. Thank you to everyone for their support, really helped me with understanding the problem. Holy shit though, I didn't even consider her considering moving to Spain until I read the comments. Y'all are great at this. Stories number 6. AITJ for leaving my friend's wedding early and ruining the vibe. Already posted this onto similar subreddits but still unsure on what to do. For context, I, F19, met my friend Ella, F23, at university last summer. We clicked right away. We found out we grew up in the same area, so we had loads in common. A couple of months later, her boyfriend proposed, and I was invited to the wedding. I wore a gold necklace with my grandfather's name on it in Greek. It has an encrusted diamond and was a gift when I was a kid. I was very close to him and lost him when I was 16. I wear it every day. At the venue, Ella's sister recognized me and took me to where Ella was getting ready. After chatting her for a bit, I went to say hi to everyone else. A few people complimented my necklace and I noticed Ella staring at me strangely. I thought she was joking, so I asked what was wrong, and she said if I wore the necklace, it would take attention away from her beauty. I took it off and apologized. Later Ella came up to me and asked if she could wear the necklace, saying the other girls liked it. I was hesitant but agreed since it was her wedding. I told her to be careful with it since it was from my grandfather and everything else. Now that I think about it, this was a horrible idea, and I've always had trouble saying no and drawing lines in fear of offending people, but it was her wedding and I really did not feel like upsetting her or anything. Not even 10 minutes later, I heard loads of commotion from where she was getting ready and went to go check what was going on. Ella had in her hands my necklace, which had broken. The name part was snapped in half. I was in shock and asked her what happened. She said it broke while she was trying to put it on. I tried not to cry but couldn't hold it in. Ella told me to suck it up and promised to get it fixed after the wedding. I told her not to worry, took the broken necklace, left the wedding early. I felt bad, but the way she spoke to me just made me feel so sick and horrible inside. She knew how much it meant to me, but it felt like she didn't care. I called my boyfriend and he picked me up. He said I wasn't overreacting and should have drawn the line when she first asked to wear it, but I felt super guilty and caved. The next day I texted her to explain why I left, saying I was upset because it meant a lot to me, because he meant a lot to me, and that I was sorry. She told me to F***ck off, because I ruined her wedding day and I had ruined the vibe between the girls. I haven't replied because I don't know what to say. I feel bad but also feel like I shouldn't. I don't know. AITJ, relevant comments. Commenter 1, she is not your friend. She is a malicious, jealous cow. Find a jeweler to fix it. Send her parents the bill with a note explaining that she broke it on purpose at her wedding and promised to pay for the repairs, and you didn't want to bother her on her honeymoon. And for the record, your friendship is over. So go scorched earth. Commenter 2, she did it on purpose. There is no way she broke it by accident in 10 minutes when you've been wearing it daily for 3 years. Commenter 3, she broke on it purpose. There's no way a simple necklace is going to take away from a whole wedding. Her problem was you got a compliment. She's a self-obsessed psycho that you need to ditch. Look back at your friendship. Did she seem to need things from you often? She's psycho. Update. Hi guys, just wanted to give you all an update with what's been going on. Thank you all so much for your feedback. I do realize that I need to grow a backbone and start learning how to say no. It would have saved me from this whole situation, but I'm glad it happened because now I know. I took the necklace to a jeweler in the city and they said that they couldn't fix it because of the type of gold it's made of. It's a bit too delicate for these kinds of repairs. He said that sometimes it's just the way the gold reacts, so there really wasn't much he could do, but I did get in touch with my uncle who lives in Greece and knows a jeweler who makes similar necklaces. He's going to see if they can help, so I'm really hoping we can get it fixed somehow. I'm still waiting to hear from him, so fingers crossed. As for Ella, I decided to message her one last time. This is what I said: "Hi Ella, I just want to be clear about something. I really did not feel comfortable about the way you treated me or my belongings. It meant a lot to me, and the way you handled it was not okay. I'm done with this friendship, and I don't think it's something I want to continue with. I'm going to get the necklace fixed, and I'll be sending you the bill. You need to pay for it. You have 30 days before I'll need to take further action. Let me know once you've sorted it out. This is really not how I wanted our relationship to end, but I am worth a lot more than this. I hope you can understand." It took a lot of encouragement from my boyfriend and friends to be this firm with her loudly crying face. I'm really not that assertive, but I will be looking into assertiveness training because I really do need to learn how to set boundaries and stick to them. Ella has read the message but not responded, so I'm not sure what's going on there, but I'm trying not to be too worried about it. Thank you all again, and I will keep you updated in case she replies and what my uncle says. Relevant comments. Commenter 1, I am so sorry she treated you that way. I get the feeling the necklace was intentionally broken to keep it from drawing any attention. She is the one who ruined the vibe at her own wedding by being petty. Send her the bills for shipping and repairs. If it cannot be repaired, she can pay to replace it with a custom duplicate. And you keep both. You do need to practice saying no. You may feel bad the first few times, but it gets easier. Just remember what happened this time when you did not say no. Be good to yourself. Commenter 2, absolutely make her pay for the replacement. And make sure her parents are aware of the entire situation, and the consequences if their daughter doesn't pay. Make sure they know all the things she said to you and that you are certain she broke the necklace intentionally. Hopefully her parents will pressure her to do the right thing. Commenter 3, you are making good first steps in becoming more assertive. I hope that you continue and that it improves your life. I would not, however, hold out much hope that you will ever see a dime from Ella. She is already thoroughly engaged in telling herself, and everyone around her who will listen, a story in which she is the victim. That's not going to change. Everybody tells themselves whatever story they need to tell themselves in order to guard their own ego. It's not about the money. I'm glad that you found somebody who can repair your necklace. Stories number 7. My 11-year-old daughter and her friends are a bunch of murder hobos. My daughter is 11 years old and started watching Stranger Things on Netflix a while back because some of the kids in her class were talking about it. After seeing some episodes, she came to me asking what Dungeons and Dragons really was. I am by no means an expert in the game. I've played maybe 4 sessions about 20 years ago, but I explained the basic concept to her and she thought it sounded really cool. I found my old dice and gave them to her to mess around with. Last week she came to me and asked if I could make a story for her and her friends to play. It sounded like a fun idea, so I obliged, and because it was Halloween, even though we don't really celebrate it in my country, I created a small Halloween campaign for the girls. In the interest of time, because they had to be done in an afternoon and I didn't have the time to browse through the entire rule set, I created simplified character sheets for them, with a bunch of simple predefined skills, and crafted an inventory for each of them with some helpful items to fulfill some of the challenges. I made a PowerPoint with several images to help them visualize what was going on and where they were. I prepared a handwritten scroll with their quest objective on it, burned the edges a bit to give it a cool look, all fun stuff. The quest itself was pretty simple. The town where the girls lived was being cursed for Halloween, and if they didn't lift the curse before midnight all the townspeople would turn into monsters. In order to prevent this, they needed to gather 3 ingredients from around the town and then go to the center of the haunted forest where a witch would craft a spell that would lift the curse. I had a lot of things prepared, but the one thing I didn't really prepare for was for my daughter and her 3 friends quickly turning into murder hobos. The first ingredient they needed was a bag of candy. So walking around town they found a kid who just went trick-or-treating. First they asked him, nicely, to give over his candy. But well, of course the kid said no, so I imagined them using some of the gold they had, or maybe be a bit more intimidating into scaring the kid to give away his candy. So the girl who chose the wizard noticed that I had written under the spells category on her character sheet, Fireball. So quietly she asked if she could burn the kid. All the other kids immediately were like, wait, can she? I told them that they could do whatever they imagined. So they chose to burn the kid and take his candy. My daughter, feeling a little bit of remorse, explained that she took a tiny urn to carry his ashes with her. And well, that set the tone for the rest of the campaign, as I could have never imagined those girls being so evil. The second ingredient was a bottle of wine, so they went to the local tavern and first tried to steal a bottle. When the stealth check failed, they decided to jump the barkeep and kill him to take the bottle of wine. The third ingredient was a dragon's tooth, which they could find in the house of an Orcish warrior on the outskirts of town. Instead of just knocking on the door, their first instinct was to try and kick the door down. My daughter rolled a 1 on that check, so I told her she lost 1 HP because she hurt her foot. So the next idea they had was to break the window and enter the house like that. Of course the orc was not happy with some adventurers breaking into her house and attacked the party on sight. So they casted a sleep spell on the orc, tied her up with the rope they had and decided to just take the tooth like that. I found some art online to put into the PowerPoint to represent the orc and the girls were like, wow, she kind of has cool armor on and a cool axe. So they decided to strip the orc of her armor and her axe, leaving a naked, tied up orc behind while ransacking some random items from her house. On to the edge of the forest they went, where they found a ghost. The idea behind the encounter was that the ghost was afraid of the dark. So the girls needed to talk to the ghost and try to figure out what he was afraid of and help him quell his fears. In return he would show them the path into the forest. To clear the encounter I had given the wizard a light spell and I had put a candle into the starting inventory of the cleric. After finding out what the ghost was afraid of, they took a good hard look at the image I had added to my PowerPoint. A ghostly shaped figure, dressed in a white cloak. So, maybe we should just set his cloak on fire, that will light up the area, they giggled. So the ghost ran away on fire, revealing the path to the haunted forest. The encounters in the forest didn't exactly go as planned either. They first encountered a group of skeletons dancing around a bonfire. The skeletons asked them to join them in their celebration for Halloween and complete a ritual dance with them and they would be rewarded. I had already readied up some music for this dance my daughter often does and once I played the music they immediately got up off the table to perform the dance for the duration of the song. Upon completing the dance the skeletons showed them the path deeper into the forest. Before leaving the girl who played the rogue asked the skeletons why the party wasn't getting the reward they were promised. The skeletons explained that showing the way deeper into the forest was the reward. The girls did not like that answer and decided to teach them a violent lesson. Where I had previously underestimated their desire for murder I had seriously overestimated their intelligence. Next they arrive at a pond, where a water spirit gives them a riddle. When they solved the riddle they would receive a magical medallion that would help them open up a magical portal later in their quest. Since it was a water spirit I looked up an easy riddle online of which the answer would be river. So they put their collective brainpower together, with me emphasizing multiple times that it was a water spirit and giving them some helpful tips along the way, but it all seemed to be going way over their heads, and they were getting to the point again of looking for alternative solutions to this problem. My wife, who had been listening into their banter, yelled at them from the living room, "It's a river, you idiots." They all giggled and happily accepted the medallion. Next up was a giant crow who wanted some of the candy to feed to her chicks because they were hungry. Unwilling to share, we could now add a dead crow to their fatality list. Next I made them do a perception check, which 2 of them failed, so our mage and cleric were trapped in a giant spider web. A giant spider attacked the girls and because of their lust for blood I significantly beefed up the health pool I had provided for the encounter. An epic battle ensued where our brave fighter tried to fend off the spider as the rogue tried to free them by throwing her dagger at them. Of course I made every throw a skill check and they all giggled as the rogue accidentally hit the cleric instead of the web. Eventually all of them joined the fight, with my daughter coming up with the great plan to mount the spider and start choking it with her rope. I happily obliged and let her do some checks in order to mount the spider and start choking it. Proudly she passed every check and was explaining in great detail how she wrapped the rope around its head and started pulling with all her might. Until I casually explained to her that spiders have book lungs and don't breathe the same way that mammals do, resulting in 0 damage, but it was a cool idea nonetheless. They took a serious beating during the fight, but were all super proud when it ended. It even got the honor of having its corpse burned and its ashes being carried around in a separate urn. Finally they arrived at a magical portal in the forest which would take them to the witch's hideout. The medallion started to light up and the image in the portal showed them a puzzle. I had found a rebus online, which was the first phrase in the chorus of a popular song in my country. The idea was that they solved the rebus and all started singing together and the portal would open showing them the way. Once again it went way over their heads, until my wife passed by, took a single glance at the rebus and gave them the answer. Happily they started singing, but it seems like puzzle solving isn't this party's forte. Right before they meet the witch they are confronted by a treant. The original idea behind it was that he was the protector of the witch and the heroes had to talk about their noble deeds and once he was convinced of the goodness in their hearts he would let them pass. Due to their actions I had to change it up and the treant said he was quite unhappy with all the chaos that the party had caused in the forest and seeks an explanation from them. Contemplating on their apology to the treant they also came to the conclusion that if it's a tree, he's made out of wood, and they can set wood on fire. Since we were running out of time and I really wanted to wrap things up before her friends started to leave, I just played along and a single fireball also reduced our poor Treant to ash. The confrontation with the witch I also cut short, and without any hassle or struggle she crafted the spell that they needed to recite together to remove the curse. Happily our noble party returned to town where they celebrated their victory, being worshipped by the entire town for their bravery. The girls seemed very happy, and yesterday after school my daughter came to me, telling me that everyone had a great time and they were still laughing about it all day. She asked me if I wanted to do something similar with them in the future. But I guess that for a new campaign, I'm seriously going to have to consider some serious consequences for their actions and make an action-packed story with a lot more battles. It's not that much of a horror story, but I wanted to share nonetheless. For now I'll just start by reading the rules again to see what more I can do to give them a fun time. My murder hobo daughter and friends got their campaign hijacked by another dad. So a while ago, I posted the previous story about introducing my daughter asking me to make a D&D campaign for her and her friends, and they going full murder hobo it. My 11-year-old daughter and her friends are a bunch of murder hobos, or slasher horror stories. So my daughter and her friends were over the moon and they wanted to play again. It went around in the classroom and all of a sudden instead of 4 it were now going to be 6 girls I had to deal with in my campaign. Due to my busy schedule at work and the holidays I didn't really have time to prepare for it like last time, but I already had the idea of what I wanted to do and I had already taken a lot of the advice I got here into account, in trying to give the girls a way more action-packed experience. Instead things didn't really turn out as expected, due to one thing I didn't take into account. Another dad joining the party. So the day before the game was supposed to start my wife gets a call from the dad of one of the girls. He heard from his daughter that we were going to play D&D again, and well, he used to play D&D a lot when he was younger and he was eager to join in on the fun. Of course I already know the guy from when he comes to drop off his daughter, but our contact has always been rather lukewarm. He's a single dad who clearly has a thing for my wife. They work in the same company and my wife has already mentioned multiple times that it is quite clear that he has taken a liking to her, albeit that he is not really the type of man to act on it. He is kind of a shy and socially awkward man in a lot of ways. I used to be a huge geek when I was younger, but getting married and having kids, together with advancing along in my career path and just getting a lot of new interests, it really watered down over the years. But even though we are the same age, he is still as much of a geek as 20 years ago. And pretty much every conversation we have ever had is about the Minecraft world that he has been building for years now. And once the game started, unfortunately for the girls, he went into full hardcore role-playing mode and completely hijacked the game from the girls. As I had to run a campaign with 4 girls who were already in full murder hobo mode again, 2 girls that felt a bit awkward and 1 role-playing neutral good druid dad, it was just too much for me to work around. Just like last time, I had some predefined character sheets and classes prepared for the girls. Added some flavor, by explaining all of their abilities on the papers and such, so they could have a good time just like last time. For the girls who had already played the game, I started the game inside of the same inn, with the mom from the boy they murdered on Halloween, looking for her lost son. They giggled about the situation that they were in, explaining to the new girls what had happened last time. But in any case, the idea was to have the girls start off in a bar brawl against some drunken dwarves. Tensions ran high, the fireball idea was already again roaming through some heads, until our druid stepped in and defused the situation by talking to the dwarves, offering to buy them a round of beer, joking with them, passing all of the charisma checks and peacefully settling the situation. The original plan was for the girls to find a note on of the mangled bodies of the dwarves setting them on their quest, so I just had a mailman come along who gave them the note with the info of what they had to do. In any case, they got a mysterious note from someone promising them a great adventure, as he had uncovered a book with information about an uncovered treasure. Asking to meet the party at his house near the old watermill, our party went on their merry way. Along the road they got attacked by a pack of wolves. Time for their first taste of combat. If it weren't for the fact that our druid can talk to animals and convince the wolves that they meant no harm and that they were no threat to them or the other creatures of the forest. Arriving at the old house, the girls wanted to barge inside, but our druid was afraid that it might be a trap, so he went to look for a bird nearby and ask for more information about who was living in the house and if it had seen any suspicious activity as of late. I started noticing that the girls were kind of getting bored as their characters were starting to fight among each other. Casually, one girl said she picked up a rock and threw it at another girl's head. When the front door turned out to be locked, they decided to go via the roof and one girl pushed the other down the chimney. But well, they made it inside the house, and in every room, he requested one of the girls to detect magic, detect traps, look for loot, look for hidden doors. The tempo was tediously slow, and when the girls went back to fighting amongst themselves again, he sat the party down to have a speech about teamwork. In any case, after a very slow and meticulous sweep of the house, where I had to describe every room in the tiniest detail on his request, they found the book they were looking for. The entrance to the cave where the treasure was located was past a hot wasteland, so instead of picking up the tempo, he had the girls bottle water and look for food as the voyage would be long and hard. We had already spent way more time on this part of the campaign than I had anticipated, so I moved further along with the plan that I had in my head. And they got ambushed by the orc which they so brutally mistreated last time. She had taken some friends with her to beat the living crap out of the girls. Time for some serious acty. Oh wait, since our druid wasn't with the party last time, he had to ask for information on what happened, show empathy and what they could do to make things better again. In any case, when a couple more orcs showed up and it became clear that talking wouldn't help, he decided that it was best to lay down their arms and get captured, so now I had to quickly conjure up a story about them being captured. But it was clear that the girls weren't having a good time. It was already hard to try and involve all of the girls actively in the story. It wasn't easy with 4 and it's a lot harder with 6, but you could just notice them checking out one by one, because no matter what situation they were in, he would always take the lead and look for solutions with his druidic powers, tell the girls how they should use their abilities or convince the girls to look for a safe alternative instead of looking for some action. But the entire campaign had completely derailed and you could just see that the only one having fun was the other dad. Even I was bored and I just decided to give them a quick exit from the orc dungeon and put a stop to the campaign, as I could see a lot of disappointed faces sitting around me. In any case, everybody quickly went home. There wasn't a single ounce of the same energy and laughter which had filled the room last time. My daughter didn't mention the campaign for the entire evening or asked anything about playing again. I'll probably hear tonight what the word in the classroom was, but I think he might have murdered their interest in ever playing a role-playing game again. It was quite clear that the type of game he wanted to play was vastly different from what the girls were expecting, putting layers of complexity and role-playing in a story that was just supposed to be about some girls kicking ass and taking names. Stories number 8. Woman wants to give birth in my house. This is one of the stranger things that's ever happened to me. To set the scene, I, 26, bought the house I'm living in 2019 from this lovely older couple. I thought, as I'm sure anyone who has been in this situation might think, that the signing was gonna be the last time I ever say them, or had anything to do with their family. I was wrong. Yesterday, I got a knock on my door. I opened it to find a young couple, probably my age, maybe a bit younger. The woman was pregnant, and looked like she was gonna pop any day. I asked who they were, and if I could help them. The woman replied that this home used to belong to her parents, and that she was born in this house. I asked again what it was that they wanted, since that didn't really tell me if they needed anything from me. She told me that her mother had also been born here, in the upstairs bedroom. For context, this is now my bedroom. She then asked if I wouldn't mind letting her bring the stuff that was needed to give birth in the same spot as she and her mother were both born in. I said no, keeping in mind that A, this isn't her or her parents' house anymore, and B, that the bedroom in question is my bedroom. Now, I thought that this was as normal as a response as was possible given the strange question, but when I was telling my friends about this afternoon, one of the girls in the friend group said that it was pretty cruel of me to tell a pregnant woman where she can and can't give birth. I didn't think that what I had said was all that strange, considering I had never met the couple before, and I don't exactly want a strange woman giving birth where I sleep, but my friend insists that I could have come to some sort of arrangement. So here I am, asking yous guys. Aita added these from Wayback Machine as they were missing from Pull Push. Edit, so I would just like to add, my friend isn't an idiot. When we were having this conversation, we were, let's say, having a fun time with fun substances. When I asked her about it today, she genuinely thought she'd imagined the conversation. Obviously, she thinks it's a horrible idea for liability and health reasons, aside from it being weird. And for those concerned that she's getting high as a nurse, she's off for the next 2 weeks, she's flying home for the holidays, so we were having a little get-together for those of us who are leaving for home. And for those saying that I made this up, I wish I had an imagination that good, I'd start writing if I did. I couldn't have predicted or come up with something like this in 100 years. Edit 2. I got an email back from the previous owners. I managed to get their contact info from the realtor who sold the house. It turns out yes, they have a daughter, yes, apparently she is actually pregnant, and they have cut her off for being a bit on the crazy side. So yeah, I asked for anything that might be helpful for getting any kind of protection order for my house, but the cops have said that unless she actually tries anything, there isn't anything they can do. So, I guess on Monday, I get to talk to someone in my county's court system to deal with this. Comments. Commenters 1. Your friend is an idiot. You did not tell her where she can give birth, you told a complete stranger that she can't give birth in your house in your bedroom. Nta. Commenters 2. NTA in any way, giving birth in someone's home, without medical assistance whatsoever, WTF, I think you the only sane person in this entire situation. Commenters 3. I don't think the advisability of home birth was the question. The question was, should OP let a stranger deliver a baby in her bedroom in the house she owns? It's not a question of home birth or not, it's a question of whether to let a stranger conduct an activity in her home. I can't imagine anyone saying yes to this. Commenters 4. Was your friend high? And the pregnant woman is delusional. NTA. Update. Well, I didn't think I'd be updating, but this got crazy. So, if you remember from the original post, the apparent daughter of the previous owners of my house came to my door a little bit ago and asked if she could give birth in my bedroom. Honestly, it's as crazy as it sounds. Reading my original post won't make it make much more sense. A couple of things before I get into it. Some friends shave shown me that the post has indeed broke Reddit containment, and pointed a few things out to me. So I'm gonna set a few things straight. Most other websites assume I'm a woman. I am NB, and will not elaborate further on that point. Not being snippy about it, but I just wanted to set the record straight, lol, on that point. Second thing, some people have assumed this was fake-based and that I probably made up the scenario because they think I think it's hot. No, I don't, I think the entire scenario is creepy and off-putting. And lastly, yes, I know that 21 is pretty young to be buying a house, and made the whole thing seem fake. I live in the Midwest, which is pretty cheap to begin with, it's not a huge house, and I got a small claim after an incident at work, so I used the money from that for my future. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter what I say, I know some people will still assume I've made the whole thing up, or used chat to make it, but that said, if you don't think this is real, just move on with your day. I truly wish it wasn't real. Last note, there were a couple of people asking why I got the cops involved with the original incident, and I only got them involved when the original homeowners told me that the woman was a bit on the loose screw side of things, so I did that because when you are told that the person who came to your door might have been a bit unhinged, you take that step for your own peace of mind. Anyway, last week Friday, at about 1:30, I get a knock/heavy pounding at my door. I go and answer, wondering just who the hell would be visiting me in the middle of the night, when I see a familiar face at the door. It's the pregnant woman, with her husband/boyfriend/partner, I don't know what, and two women, who I assume are midwives. From what I gather, the woman went into labor earlier that day, and is hoping I changed my mind. I haven't and asked them all to leave. The woman starts having either a breakdown, or a contraction or something, because she just starts screaming on my driveway. One of the other women in the group explains to me that they drove 4 hours to get here, and if I wouldn't mind letting them set up. She tells me that the woman had told them that she had arranged for the house, and that she was nearly ready to push. From what I understood, the woman had lied to her midwife about me agreeing to this, and had essentially tried to trick her into forcing me into letting this happen in my house. I tell her a firm no, and that if needed, there's a hospital only 5 minutes away from where I live, the same hospital my friend works at from my original post. No, she wasn't be there, she was on vacation at the time, and asked them all to leave. The woman starts screaming and crying about how I'm ruining this for her, but between me closing and locking the door, her partner, and her midwives, she gets back into their van and drive off. I don't know if this was a guilt trip, or if they were delusional or what, but here's the thing about me. I am an absolute pushover. I probably would have just pretended to be asleep and not even opened the door and waited them out. But here's the thing, I had a different friend, her wife and their highly autistic child spending the night on their way back home after the holidays. I'm cheaper than a hotel, lol. All the noise and commotion, plus the unexpected midnight visitor severely triggered the kid, and it took nearly 2 hours to calm her back down enough to get her to sleep. She's a good kid, and means the world to my friends, so having someone else who would have been severely affected by this, I managed to find a bit of my spine, which is why I wound up opening up the door to ask them to leave. Honestly, I shouldn't have even opened the door and just called the cops first thing, but the good news is that after a couple of minutes talking to the midwife, she agreed to take the whole show elsewhere. After they all left, I did call the police on the non-emergency line, and update them on what was going on, and gave them the footage of the previous incident and the latest video I have the incident. I'm really hoping that now she's given birth, that she'll leave me alone. Either way, in addition to my Ring camera, I've asked my neighbor to keep an eye out, and call me if anything happens while I'm at work. I also got deadbolts to install for all of my exterior doors. I changed the locks when I bought the house, which honestly seemed to have been a good idea, but this is just to make me feel a bit better about the whole thing. Comments. Commenters 1. Wow, you didn't even offer her to record it and cut the umbilical cord. Insane. Family. I was envisioning them, rejected and locked out of the house, setting up the inflatable birthing pool on the front lawn using water from the garden hose, screaming all night and killing the grass. Commenters 2. $5 says crazy daughter will be back asking for her child to spend time in her childhood home. Commenters 3. In 19 years she'll be knocking on the door ready to pop with her own. Commenters 4. Nothing says birth plan like ambushing a homeowner in the dead of night with a DIY delivery squad. Clearly, you were just one inflatable pool away from becoming the Midwest's most reluctant birthing center. Honestly, the nerve of you to ruin her magical experience by, wanting to not host a surprise labor party in your living room. Next time, you should really think ahead and install a "no deliveries," human or otherwise, sign on your front porch. How dare you value your sleep, your friend's peace, and your general sanity over her Pinterest-worthy home birth fantasy. Commenters 5. And nothing says competent midwife like agreeing to take a woman in active labor on a 4-H road trip. Commenters 6. Is midwife a protected term in the US? In the UK you have to be fully qualified and registered to be a midwife. Commenters 7. That doesn't stop some of them being delusional quacks who actively endanger women's lives. In Australia there's apparently a contingent that call themselves birth keepers or something stupid like that who basically do unlicensed midwifery. They're responsible for some deaths that we know of. Stories number 9. Entitled Couples Meltdown Equals My Luxury Upgrade. Back in 2008, my partner and I took a gay cruise through South America. Picture this, 3 days in Rio during Carnival, a week of debauchery on the high seas, and wrapping up in fabulous Buenos Aires. Pure bliss. Well, mostly. Back then, the concept of a boatload of homos docking in port was breaking news in some places. Everyone was friendly, but I still felt like one misstep by any of us would be a permanent black mark on gays everywhere. The stakes were high. Now, my partner and I weren't exactly rolling in it, inside cabin poor, but we splurged on a few nights at a nice hotel after the cruise. Turns out, so did half the queens on that ship. By 10 a.m., there was a line snaking out the lobby doors, all of us hung over and politely waiting our turn to drop bags and wander off until check-in. Enter them. A couple behind us decided they were simply too important to wait. One of them had some VIP ultra diamond titanium whatever status with the hotel, which supposedly came with early check-in. The clerk, who had the patience of a saint, explained that early check-in was based on availability, and at 10 a.m., there wasn't any, but these two. Oh no. They lost their entitled minds. Voices were raised. The clerk's intelligence was questioned. Her English, which was impeccable but slightly accented, we were in Buenos Aires, was mocked. It was full Karen energy, but double-barrel gay edition. Security eventually stepped in. When it was finally our turn, I felt like I needed to make amends for the sins of our people. I apologized to the clerk, told her no one should be spoken to like that, and casually mentioned how much we appreciated her professionalism. We had a lovely little chat about travel and the cruise while she processed what I assumed was a placeholder for when check-in time rolled around. Except it wasn't. With a smile, she handed us 2 keys. For a suite. A massive suite with a stunning view and rooftop pool access right down the hall. Enjoy your stay, she said with a wink. And enjoy we did. So, to the entitled queens who screamed their way into oblivion, gracias, darlings. That view was everything. Stories number 10. Aita, I told my daughter I don't support her decision. Am I the a-hole for telling my daughter I don't support her decisions and will no longer be financially available? My daughter told me her ex is abusive and she needed out, for her safety in the safety of her child. I went and got her. She lived with me for over a year rent-free, and free childcare. I worked 3 jobs just to make sure we had all we needed. After custody hearing, the judge gave them 50-50 and she would have to move back within 50 miles of her ex to exercise her 50-50 rights. I was willing to help her get an apartment. She had a friend looking for a roommate, and there's family in the area she could temporarily stay with until she can get her own place. She then tells me 2 weeks before the child goes back to the ex that she's moving to another state to live with her new boyfriend. I attempted talking to her about her decision and she shut down, refusing to listen. She always has an excuse for why she can't move back so she can be there for her child. One of her excuses is that I'm always there when she needs me, so it's my fault. I told her that I am disappointed in her. I do not support her abandoning her child to a man that she says is so abusive she can't live in the same state as him. I asked her how she can excuse leaving her child with her ex without someone there to be a safe space. She has no answer. I will be here if she wants to talk, but I will not be available if she needs help getting out of this new situation. Of course this is not the first time I've helped her, I'm her parent. I've always been there when she needs me, no matter what. But now her actions make me wonder how many lies she's told. Is her ex really the abuser? Is the relationship? I doubt that she's told me the truth, and now I wonder if she ever had. I feel like she had taken advantage of me and that she doesn't really care about her child. Stories number 11. I suffered a persistent incurable pinworm infection for months. Turned out I tricked myself into this suffering. Don't make this mistake. The background. My 9-year-old daughter got pinworms at school and complained to us about the symptoms and that she actually saw the worms in her stool. We could also see her scratching her butt all the time. We treated her with Purintel and she was all good in a couple of days from just one dose. My wife and I also took this medicine, as suggested by doctors, and performed the typically recommended hygiene routines. My wife had no symptoms and at first I didn't either. And then a couple of weeks later the nightmare started, which lasted for over half a year. The crawling. I went to bed one night and as I was falling asleep, I felt a distinct sensation of something crawling through my anal cavity. Something I had never felt before in my life. That was very unsettling. I took another dose of Purintel and hoped for the best. A few days later I woke up at 3 a.m. from the same sensation, only more intense, and this time something was crawling on my buttocks and scrotum too. Everything seemed exactly as the typical symptoms described online in the many articles I had read. I jumped out of bed, took some clear packing tape and ran to the bathroom to catch the pinworms. I applied the tape to different areas hoping to trap them but got nothing, only some cotton threads and the hair I pulled out. That night hunt repeated several times. The hygiene. At first, I thought maybe I'd just wait 6 to 8 weeks and they would die on their own while I maintained strict hygiene, and I doubled down on it. Washed my hands and my phone all the time, used separate towels, changed my underwear twice per day, disinfected surfaces, and got a powerful UV lamp on Amazon which I used to disinfect the bedroom and bathrooms daily. And, of course, I never touched my anal and perineal area except for washing it, which I did multiple times per day, to make sure I get rid of the eggs before they spread around, as many articles warn about. Sometimes when the crawling woke me up at night I would drag myself to the shower and wash my butt, so I could get rid of the worms and fall asleep again. I was constantly underslept because of this. It turned into countless weeks of ruined nights. The treatment. Meanwhile, the symptoms were not getting any better even 2 months later. So I went to the doctor and got prescribed a single dose of albendazole. It did literally nothing. So a couple of weeks later I got a triple dose of albendazole and ivermectin, which was supposed to have an atomic bomb effect on pretty much any existing parasites, and probably my liver. And, nothing. Still the same crawling sensations at night. And then I started looking into my stool and saw small thread-like semi-transparent worms. I began to get really scared. The testing. When I came back to my doctor for the 3rd time she referred me to an infectious disease specialist, and he refused to see me without a confirmed lab test. So first I did a tape test. It showed nothing. I was upset. I thought maybe I did something wrong and didn't apply it right, so I insisted on a more conclusive test and submitted some stool samples. They found nothing and shrugged their shoulders. Self-treatment. Some people on the internet shared similar stories, so I realized I was on my own. It was quite depressing, but I wasn't giving up. Methodically, I went through several cycles of various folk treatments, including garlic and pumpkin seeds, and some special supplements I ordered from abroad. A few months later I was in the same rut, exhausted and extremely frustrated. Back to the lab. I called my doctor and went on a rant about them not helping me with my case, and that I could see the worms in my stool and they were missing them somehow in their lab and should take it more seriously. In that conversation, I started to get a feeling that the doctor thought I was nuts and was more concerned about my mental health than the parasites. It added an insult to the injury, but I could understand it. There is a whole medical diagnosis for parasite paranoia, and doctors get bothered by such loonies all the time. Anyway, they agreed to do more testing and asked me to submit the worms in a separate container. The results came back. No parasites, and the so-called worms, are just food fibers, mostly likely from fruits and vegetables. I just couldn't believe it. Am I crazy? Am I that loony with parasite hallucinations? But I can physically feel them crawling on me at night. I am not making that up. What's going on? The post. Then I got back to digging up whatever I could on the internet and found this post. https://patient.info/forums/discuss/I-thought-I-but-4375525. It's from a woman who thought she had persistent pinworms, and then her mother suggested she was just overusing soap which created that sensation. And as she stopped washing her butt so intensely, everything went away. It was hard to believe that was the case with me, because I had no sign of skin irritation and the sensations of crawling were too real to confuse with anything. But what did I have to lose? The real problem. So I just stopped washing my butt 10 times a day with soap. I stopped using soap for that altogether. Just washed it with water after going to the bathroom. And in just 2 days the sensations at night became much milder. And in 5 days they went away completely. That's it. I just stopped using soap, and the whole problem, which very badly affected my life for months, was completely resolved. I would have never thought that soap could have such an effect, but apparently it can. Is that the case with you? I created this post for the many people looking for help on the internet, who suffer from medication-resistant pinworms. And yet they never got properly tested. Some of them talk about being on the verge of suicide. Trust me, I can relate to the fear and frustration. Maybe some of those horror stories of incurable parasites are true, I am not dismissing that. However, remembering how deeply I was convinced it was the case with me, I think many people are playing the same silly trick on themselves, creating some real suffering for themselves and their families. If not for multiple negative tests, I would have never imagined the worms were not real. So if you have not done it yet, get properly tested. And try taking it easy with the soap in your private areas to see if it helps. All the best to you, and I hope this simple and magical solution works for your case of incurable threadworms. Stories number 12. My BF opened up to me and I don't know what to do. When I, 21F, was a kid, I remember my older sister making me kiss her on certain areas, and then she'd do the same to me. I've never brought up to any of my family members, but sometimes it just kinda bothers me. I have a close relationship with my sister, too. And sometimes I do want to bring it up, but wouldn't it just make things weird? Like I can't tell my parents or my other sister, but I want to sometimes. My first time sharing that was last night to my boyfriend and now to this post LOL. Another thing, my boyfriend was SA'd as a kid. For a while I didn't know anything other than it was just a family member, but my BF would just tell me that he's gotten over it and has made peace with it. But, anytime he gets super drunk, he starts talking about it and he gets really upset and has panic attacks. Last night, he told me who it was, after fighting with himself, saying, "It'll ruin the way you see people around me." I wasn't necessarily trying to make him tell me, but I did say, maybe telling someone what actually happened will make you feel better, maybe this isn't something you try to work through yourself. So he opened up some, and it was his brother, who's 2 years older than him, so he was just a kid too when it happened. I'm the first person he has ever told and I don't know how to help him. I don't know what to think. I know that he wants to build a close relationship with his brother, we see him all the time. And it's like he's always looking for him. He says that he's gotten over it, but I know deep down, he hasn't. Edit, to the people commenting things shaming me for posting this, I literally have no one else to ask for advice. This is literally an anonymous post, no identifying details. I just want to help my BF however I can, and posting here was the only way I'd get some ideas or something. I can't go to people in real life, I don't want to talk about his trauma or even mine to people that we know. I get that it's not my place to talk about it, but I didn't know what else to do. Stories number 13. My 23F, BFs, 26M, friends pretending to kidnap me for a proposal. I am trembling and just created this alt account because my main has a lot of details about me that would make it easy to trace back. A week ago my BF told me he had a camping trip planned with his friends on Friday, today. He said he would have no service and he'll see me on Sunday. He messaged me at 5 a.m. this morning and told me they are hitting the road. Around 8 I went for a run like I usually do on Fridays. I have one headphone in while I do because I was on a work call. While I was running, I noticed a SUV that kept popping up. In hindsight, it looked just like BF's childhood friend's car. I sent a message to my sister saying to stand by and shared my location. Right after sending the message I looked up and the SUV was right beside me and someone jumped out and grabbed me. It happened so fast I even dropped my phone on the pavement. I was pulled into this car and I could tell there was at least 2 masked guys in the back before they covered my eyes. In hindsight they had cartoonish ski masks and black gloves on. I freaked out and resisted like crazy, screaming and kicking. All I could hear was these guys laughing and I could feel one of them holding me down by my arms behind me and the other was holding my legs down at the knees. I don't know how long I was in there but I keep begging them to let me go and crying. I even admit I peed on myself, but I don't think they noticed until we arrived at the house. They pulled me out of the car and I was screaming for help until I was pulled into a house. When the mask on my head was removed, I was on my knees in front of my BF of 2 years. He was staring at me with a confused look before he started to angrily ask his friends what was going on. As I started to adjust to what was going on I realized he was dressed nice and there was romantic decorations around the entryway to his house. I realized who he was and what was going on and collapsed into sobs. I probably had a 5-minute panic attack in that car on my way there and another one sitting in the entryway to his house. I was sweaty, wearing soiled yoga pants, flushed with fear, scared for my life. That was all about an hour or 2 ago. My BF took me upstairs and was going to help me get showered and changed, but I wanted to do that alone. I heard yelling and commotion downstairs while I showered, but I don't know what is going on. I'm sitting in his room now holding my shattered phone after crying to my sister about what happened. She lives 1.5 hours away but is speeding over to get me now. I can't stop thinking about what happened, and even though I know now I was never in any danger, I don't think my brain can comprehend it. They were snickering and teasing me in deepened voices about what they were going to do to me. The one that was holding my legs down kept caressing my thighs up and down into the inner area. When the car would brake, his face kept falling into my chest. I don't even know who that was. I just know one of them sounded unsure and kept trying to defuse the situation, but I think it was the driver. Edit, my sister arrived. She wants to take me to the police station, now. I haven't spoken to my BF yet, but I think there's more to this story than he knew about. I'll have to log off for a while. Thank you for the support in the comments. Edit 2, I'm working with police now. This is going to be investigated as a false imprisonment if I press charges. My sense of time was so warped. From where I was picked up to his house was about 7 or 10 minutes in the car. It felt like way longer than that. As for the friends, the driver was his childhood best friend who I actually get along with well. He was in tears when he voluntarily arrived at the police station for a statement. The other two were friends from his athletics class that he started attending a few months ago. It seems like the two guys I didn't know wanted in on what otherwise was supposed to be something more innocent. The original plan was for them to pop out of this car in their funny kidnapping attire and hand me a letter that explained I was being summoned by BF and resistance is futile. Seems like the plan changed as the two new friends wanted to shake me up a bit more and make it feel more real. Edit 3, I've had time to calm down and long talks with my sister. We are going to meet up with my ex-BF for dinner tonight. He has been respectful of my requests for space but has been emotional whenever he thinks about what I went through this morning. His best friend contacted me repeatedly apologizing for allowing it to get that far, but I asked for him to stop and he did. The best friend's fiancé reached out and has been supportive and apologetic, too. I'm astounded at the support I've received here and wish I could thank each of you individually. I've never had anyone other than my sister and BF care for my mental well-being like this. Reddit is a very kind place sometimes, smiley face. Edit 4. Back after a few weeks. I'm okay, and I can't share much due to lawyer's advice. Check my latest post. Update. Hello, I apologize for going MIA. So I finally logged back in. I have a lot I wish I could tell you all, but unfortunately due to legal consultation, it's best I keep a lot of it private. In short, I'm healing. My now fiancé had a private proposal with me last week. We had many tough conversations and his responses to everything reminded me how safe and loved I am by him. I think that's all I can share for now. I am only consulting right now and may not press charges. Thank you so much for all the kindness and support. Opening my inbox today warmed my heart incredibly. Edit. There are a lot of people who disagree with me staying with my fiancé. I'm sorry I couldn't explain in detail how confident I am in him throughout this. Please read carefully before passing judgments, and I'm sorry I couldn't please everyone with my decisions. But after further response I think pressing charges is the best course of action. Maybe I'm a bit too tender-hearted, but I didn't want the former best friend to get some flack too. But it seems he has to. Update 2. Hello concerned friends. I'm not sure if anyone still remembers me, but I wanted to give a final update as I close out this year. 2024 was crazy for me. I spent the entire year working on myself in therapy. I developed an obvious trauma response to being in public, especially when men would be sneaking up behind me or quickly exiting cars near me, but I also developed a fear that made life tough. I became very afraid of my fiancé's friends. I love and trust my friends and family with all of my being, but I found that I couldn't trust anyone who brought into our life because of a feeling of a loss of control. Sorry this is a bit incoherent, I'm not really sure of how I feel myself, but the point is, if I haven't vetted and learned to trust people, I struggle allowing them into my life. I decided to end things with my ex-fiancé. It was tough and took months to do, but I feel better for it. He is a great man, but there were behaviors from him and his friends before, during, and after the incident that gave me pause. The doubt and mental anguish was too much and I just had to run away from it all. Shockingly to me, but not my therapist, I feel immensely better now. It's almost like a switch went off and being away from him has expedited my healing so much. I'm scared being at my age and starting over, but I'd rather not be married at all than live in stress like I was. Happy New Year everyone. Also update on the legal side, the charges were dropped and I was not mentally able to pursue anything further. I will say the lives of his friends have been stained and I don't care to check the extent. I just know there was a breakup and one was kicked out of their living situation over it all. Stories number 14. My 28F, my sister, 30F, will use our other sister, 22F, as surrogate and I don't know what to do. Hello, I don't use Reddit and made this account to post about an issue with the very same sisters a couple of years ago and now I'm back. I'm stuck in a tough situation between my two sisters, Shirley, 30F, and Mary, 22F. Shirley's always been the bossy big sister, and Mary's the sweet, passive one who'll do anything to keep the peace. This dynamic has been our norm for as long as I can remember. Shirley and her husband have tried to have children for 2 years now, but the 3 pregnancies she had during this time were terminated before the 11th week. They've been devastated, which I genuinely feel for. The problem is that Shirley latched onto the idea of Mary carrying the baby for her. Mary's set to graduate from college in 4 months, and the plan is to start the process immediately after. Mary says she's okay with it, but she always just looks sad about the things she'll miss, like partying or her favorite food, since Shirley will have her move in to make sure she's following a specific pregnancy diet, or she seems anxious about the process itself. When we've talked about it, she said things like, "Shirley's done a lot for me, this is the least I can do for her," or "She's really counting on me, I don't want to let her down." She keeps brushing off her own doubts, and it's so obvious to me that she's only agreeing because Shirley's guilt-tripping her. Mary seems to also be mourning her body, doing a lot of body checks in the mirror, and once she laughed anxiously, joking about how it's all gonna go, I think partly because it will change a lot, but also because Shirley keeps making comments about how Mary won't be cute and skinny anymore. These comments make me furious, but every time I push back, Shirley dismisses me, saying she's just telling the truth and I don't understand sacrifice for family. I'm worried because Mary has always looked up to Shirley, to the point of idolization. I think she's afraid of saying no because she doesn't want to disappoint her and because of the absolute hell she'd make. But I can see how uncomfortable she is when this whole surrogacy thing comes up. She also keeps looking up pregnancy complications and birth videos, and I can see she's so anxious about the whole thing. How do I get more involved? How do I approach Mary without making her feel more pressured? How do I help her see that it's okay to say no if she doesn't want this? Would going to Shirley help with anything? Edit: for those asking about official clinics, they didn't go to a clinic with Mary specifically yet. But I'm afraid that won't be enough to get her an easy way out. They had to have some treatments/exams where, from what I understood, only about 20% of Shirley's eggs were good for use. They've had talks about how if the pregnancy has risks because of her eggs, she's open to having a kid, not of her own, as she puts it. That's one of the reasons why she wants Mary, because if she needs the eggs, it's the closest DNA she has to her own. So when they find out a clinic won't do it, I think they'll just spend a few months getting used to the idea of doing it DIY and then do it. Stories number 15. Aita for being upset with my brother-in-law. Aita for being upset with my brother-in-law after a phone call he made to my husband. Okay, so let me give you a lot of context and remind you that I am still trying to wrap my head around all of this. So I, 38F, have been married to my husband, 35M, for 13 years. We have a few kids together and live out of state. My brother-in-law, we will call him Billy, has had lots of trouble in the romance category. Billy has a child with a woman we will call Nancy. Billy and Nancy have been together for many years. They had an on and off again relationship due to his infidelity. After so many times, Nancy finally called it quits for good. Billy started dating a woman we will call Bella. Bella ended up expecting and Billy messed things up with her. During Billy and Bella's time apart, Nancy found out about her and friended her. They both took Billy to court for child support. This caused Billy financially issues, so he had to move back in with father-in-law. Father-in-law found out about Bella and was demanding that he get to meet the new addition. Screaming he had grandparent rights. In his state he does not, but you can't tell him this because he got his law degree at Legally Blonde University apparently. Now everyone in the family loves Nancy and invites her to functions and get-togethers. Father-in-law found out that Nancy and Bella talk. He begged to get in touch with Bella. Nancy did help them meet up. He was over the moon to meet the new addition of the family. Bragged about it and was acting like he had no other grandchildren or children. Father-in-law and Bella were also acting really uncomfortably close. He invited everyone, even Nancy, to a barbecue. We all went, and the way Phil and Bella acted together made most of us want to leave right away. He would ask Bella if she need help getting undressed when she spoke up about needing to change her shirt. We all left as soon as we could because it was just too much for us and my kids. Months later we invited everyone over for a get-together. To my surprise, Bella and Billy show up together. Now this was such a surprise because Billy had started to see a nice lady. He even spoke about moving in with this woman. We had a nice dinner, and while everyone is winding down, Billy and Bella left to a motel. The next morning Billy announced that him and Bella are patching up things and working on their family. This made Phil visibly upset. So much so that he was threatening to unalive himself because no one wants him to be happy. Everyone left our house and my husband and I were so thankful. We couldn't get over everything that had unfolded. As time would pass we would hear Bella and Billy were doing the on-again and off-again relationship dance. That was until he talked her into moving in with him and Phil. During Thanksgiving she would call me voicing how she wished my husband would teach his brother how to treat a woman, make comments on gifts I would receive stating, "I wish he would do that for me," and "I wish I could have what you have." Which I would brush off and ignore. She blew up my phone with text messages and calling when Billy and her picked out a ring together. I congratulate them but was told he isn't going to ask until we get together in January for Christmas. This seemed odd at first, but January is when the siblings can get together with Phil for Christmas, so I took this as their way of breaking the news to everyone. We knew before them because Billy wants his brother to be his best man. She has hinted at me being part of her bridal group, but I have just said that's precious because until it's official I am not giving my answer. Personally I need to know how extravagant they want to go because we may not have the funds to both be in the wedding. Weddings are expensive, and last time my husband and I were both in one it was over $1,000 for tux and dress alterations and hair, nails, and makeup. That was a local wedding. Now if this is near them we need travel and hotel and all of that. So the only one so far who has said yes is my husband because that is his brother. Now just a few weeks ago we found out this so-called family Christmas is now having additional people there. Which okay, that's fine, but it is a small house. Where there was gonna be like 10 tops is now at 25 people. And more seem to be added daily. My husband and I have figured this is turning into a huge proposal party, which if that's what they want that's cool, but why at a small house? Fast forward to a few days ago and Billy calls my husband. Tells him he will not be able to make the get-together. That his work is having him go out of town. He states how Bella is upset but said she would be okay if my husband would propose for him, like some sort of proxy fiancé crap. When I heard this I swear, absolutely not, was ringing in my head. My husband laughed and said no way. I however was shocked and wondering how he could not be embarrassed for even asking that. How do you ask your brother to propose for you? I knew she was jealous of me, but this is some Fatal Attraction / single white female movie crap. Like, am I stuck in a Jerry Springer nightmare? I want to yell at her and tell her how disrespectful and disgusting that was of her to even ask Billy to do that. What's next? She wants to borrow my wedding dress. I swear what every subscription I subscribe to for 2025 I would like to cancel. I can't talk to her or look at her. My husband has said that for my sanity we are not going. We will be staying home and relaxing while all of that goes down. He has yet to tell his family, but personally I am happy to be dogging that shindig. Stories number 16. I invited 15 of my closest friends to my birthday party, but they didn't even reply to the invite and I feel so ashamed. I, 27F, made a WhatsApp group and invited 15 of my closest friends to my birthday party. I planned a nice themed dinner. The theme was Italy / Dolce Vita, at a nice restaurant, with one live music act, a nice cake ordered from a bakery and fitting the theme, and decorations. I wrote a heartfelt text, how I want to celebrate getting older with my oldest and greatest friends, and I detailed everything that was planned for the evening in the invitation. And then, nothing. Nobody replied, nobody said a word, like, thanks for the invite, or, looking forward, or anything at all. After a few hours my boyfriend posted a party meme in the WhatsApp group and wrote how excited he was to get it started. Still nothing. After almost 2 days, I posted a gif of chirping grills and made a funny comment, still thinking, maybe people simply forgot to reply. After another day, I started texting people individually, if they would like to come, or if they are available that evening, and a few responded, that they will let me know soon. Others didn't respond at all. After almost a week not a single one of my friends posted into the group or have messaged me if they would like to come to my birthday party. After 0 invitation acceptances and after reaching out several times, I felt so ashamed. Like I was begging the people to want to celebrate me or to come. I started to cry and I felt so depressed. Ashamed and humiliated I just deleted the WhatsApp group. Nobody has asked me about that either. My birthday is now just a week away. I called the restaurant and cancelled, I called the bakery and cancelled my order, and I returned the decorations I bought. Maybe I was the stupid one for organizing all those things beforehand, but I was just so sure that at least a handful of people would like to come / show up. I am just so sad. I have known most of my friends for at least 15 years. I was their bridesmaids, their child's godparent, their maid of honor. I was there at graduation ceremonies and birthday celebrations. And I am truly puzzled. Is it really such a burden to come to my dinner? A dinner, which I would have paid in full and which I tried to make it into a beautiful evening/event for everyone. I am just so sad and ashamed that I wasn't even worth a reply message. My boyfriend is trying to cheer me up and he immediately got busy organizing a surprise birthday evening for me. He is wonderful and I am just so glad he and my parents care so much about me, otherwise I would just feel absolutely worthless. Comment: Who are these people? I can assure you it is extremely rare to have 15 close friends. Reply: Mostly people I went to school or kindergarten with. They are as many as 15, because I invited my friend and additionally their partner, so 6 invitees were actually additional partners. Hope that helps, smiley face. I have read every single comment. The comments ranged from compassionate, to giving advice or constructive criticism. All in all, reading all of them felt so incredibly uplifting and cathartic. Thank you all. I will continue reading and answering as much as I can and give you any updates. To the people believing I will get a surprise party, I really won't. I think honestly every one of my friends is in their own bubble and has their own stuff going on and just wasn't feeling it right now, which was definitely hurtful and rude, but at least it didn't feel malicious. About my friends, they are not bad people at all, but they are probably victim to a world, where commitment in general is a rare thing to find, where rules and manners are slowly forgotten and where being constantly busy is a good enough excuse for anything. I found it rude, but I will not confront them, but rather distance myself. They are my friends, because in times of crisis they were there for me and we share many good memories. However, as many pointed out, you do grow apart and this behavior might be a result of that. I talked to my boyfriend a lot and showed him some of the responses and he was very reassuring. He told me the fact that I cared so much, that I always try to do things with love and care, that is one of the things he appreciates and loves most about me and he never wants me to give that up. I also reflected on me and my character and I will try and do better myself as I also sometimes forgot to reply to a text or canceled a lunch last minute. I will try to put the behavior out there, that I would like to receive. I ordered myself a birthday calendar, an address book and a couple of birthday cards, and I will note every birthday of a friend or acquaintance that I make, and send them a birthday card. Too many of the comments talked about the hurt they felt, when people forgot their birthday and didn't show up and I find the idea to try to do things differently soothing. P.S. Thanks also for the many birthday wishes, they made me so happy. P.P.S. For all the people wanting to come my party, I wish. That would certainly be so cool and makes me believe that new friends are just around the corner. Comment: Hard disagree with the majority here. OP, you are 27, that's well beyond being a child and well beyond expecting anyone to care about your birthday. Like, did you attend 15 birthday parties each year for all of these people? You probably did not, or at least you can sympathize with people who are like, hey, we're in our 20s now. We've all got jobs and chores to do. Can't we just simply hang out? The older you get, the more you need to stop thinking only about yourself. What do other people want to do that you like doing? Maybe next time arrange something that people would mutually like to do rather than a vanity celebration for something you should have grown out of 20 years earlier. Reply: This comment is quite unfriendly, but I still appreciate that you took the time to comment. Update: I followed the advice of basically everyone and asked a few of them what happened and why I wasn't even granted a reply or reaction, especially when I kindly asked all of them to RSVP until a certain date. To all the optimistic people, I have to disappoint you, there wasn't a surprise party planned. Also, all of them use WhatsApp regularly and all of them saw the invites, the group messages were ticked blue. Now for their responses explanations. 4 of them had possible alternative plans and couldn't decide if they wanted to go to my party or to commit to the other plans, so they just didn't want to say anything, until they decided on something. 2 girlfriends didn't have confirmation if their partner could attend or not, so again they just didn't say anything, because they didn't know yet. All the partners were included in the group chat though. 1 said she wasn't feeling too well lately and wanted to decide spontaneously to come. 1 had a valid excuse, since she tried to find childcare for her 6-month-old child all week long. She is the only one with a child and she actually found childcare, so we will do something with her and her husband. I told all of them how it made me feel, that it was rude and that it made me cry and feel unwanted. I also told them that it is their loss, because if they don't appreciate me organizing nice events and evenings, this is not the first time I had issues like this, there simply won't be any for them to attend in the future. They all admitted that their behavior was rude and unfriendly and were apologetic and told me they are sorry. 1 friend said he really messed up and after he saw I deleted the group, he felt pretty bad and wanted to approach me anyways. It is not ideal, but it is something. I will not cut them out as suggested by many. I talked to them, I expressed my hurt and I will give them the opportunity to learn from their mistakes and to grow. They are flaky in a society that accepts flaky and non-committal behavior. They are human and faulty, and I am also not a perfect human, who does behave ideal all the time. I know that this answer may disappoint some. I will however make room in my life for people, who are more reliable and who would be appreciative and enthusiastic about theme parties, and will not rely too much on my current friends. All your messages were so uplifting and nice, and I honestly feel a lot better now, and I am starting to look forward to my birthday again. I feel also incredibly optimistic that I will find like-minded people and friends in the future, and I won't give up. I will throw nice parties and dinners again, and I just have hope in my heart that my friends will have changed a bit and I will also have made new, great friends by then. Thanks a lot again to everyone. P.S. To everyone telling me about their bad experiences, their birthday parties, where nobody attended and the moments they felt lonely. I feel so sad for you and with you, and wish for every single one of you to find people who love and appreciate you. You all help me to feel less ashamed and less alone. Stories number 17. My husband hasn't spoken to me in months. So I decided to surprise him at dinner. "Hi, honey," I said, bustling over the stovetop, "how was your day?" He ignored me. He threw down his briefcase and got a beer from the fridge. "The same as always. Is dinner ready yet?" I pointed to the timer ticking on the kitchen counter. "The meatloaf needed another 20 minutes. I think the correct phrase is, 'What's cookin', good lookin','" I joked. "Look, I've had a long day," he sighed, draining his beer. "Just come get me when it's ready." "I will, honey," I said. "After dinner, I have a surprise for you." "Whatever." And with that, he retreated upstairs to play video games. Supper seemed to be all he cared about these days. So long as he was fed, he appeared to want nothing else to do with me. I tried to get him to talk to me. Something was clearly bothering him. He just wouldn't open up, but that was all right. Once dinner was ready, I hollered up the stairs that it was time to eat. The spread was immaculate. Roast cauliflower with lemongrass and shallot. Jacket potatoes with garlic confit. And for the main course, a beautiful meatloaf, my own recipe. His favorite. I thought he might even notice. Instead, he simply began eating without even looking at his plate, his eyes glued to his phone. But that was all right. After 15 minutes of silence broken only by the sounds of chewing, I spoke up. "So, how's the meatloaf?" I asked. "Good," he grunted. "Curious about your surprise?" I asked, smiling. "Want a hint?" "What do you want from me, Rose?" he scoffed, plating another ketchupy slice. "I didn't forget your birthday, did I?" His words stung, but I tried not to let it show. I'd been silently rehearsing what I was about to say for hours. "Actually, I wanted to talk to you," I said, "about the baby." He stopped chewing for a moment, his jaw set. He always wanted to be a father. But 6 months ago, I'd miscarried at 20 weeks. The doctors told me we shouldn't try again. "I told you before that I didn't want to talk about it." "But I do," I said. "She was my baby, too." "If you can't give me a child," he said, popping the last of his meatloaf in his mouth, "then we have nothing more to talk about." He'd bitten down on something so hard he nearly cracked a tooth. As he gingerly pulled the thing from between his lips, he shuddered, unable to comprehend what he was seeing. "Is that?" he asked, softly. I nodded. "There's leftovers in the freezer if you're still hungry." A belly button ring, the kind his mistress wore. He clutched his mouth in horror, staring at me with more passion than he had in months. "Is this it, you crazy bitch?" he cried. "Is this the surprise?" "Of course not," I replied, pleased that I finally had his attention. She was pregnant. Stories number 18. AITJ for putting hair removal cream in my conditioner for my sister-in-law to use. 15F, hate my sister-in-law, 31F. There was a whole thing with her and my brother, her husband, but I won't go into detail. My brother sent her back to her home country after a big altercation happened between them, and she lived there for a couple months with her child, my niece. My mum felt bad for my niece because our home country is not really safe and most of the people there are living in poverty, so she told my brother to make them come back to where we are so that she was safe. My brother agreed. His wife and my niece came back, but he doesn't want them to live with him, but he wants them to live with us. They came back, and don't get me wrong, I love my niece, but my sister-in-law thinks that I'm the one who should be taking care of her all the time because it's giving her a break, but all she does is sit on her phone all day and lay in bed, and me and my family have to take care of my niece. Ever since she moved in with us, I've noticed my stuff gone missing or is running out, and it's because of her. I mean, she could just have asked me if she wanted something. She always wants to join into my conversations, which are none of her business, and always barging into my room like, have you ever heard of privacy? She doesn't know how to properly wash dishes as well, and everything she washes always is still dirty after, and it's really annoying because I have to wash everything again. I don't think she has any common sense as well, cause my niece is still a baby and can make mess sometimes, but when she makes a mess, my sister-in-law doesn't even bother to clean it up. She just stares at it and expects me or my mum to clean it up. Like what? You're her mother. Even in public when my niece makes a mess I get second-hand embarrassment because again she doesn't clean it up and expects someone else to do it. She's such a bad mother. As I said before, she kept on using my stuff and I got really pissed at the fact she was using my expensive conditioner and it ran out, so I put hair remover cream into the empty bottle of conditioner so that she can use it. Stories number 19. Manhattan black tie wedding with an Evite. My cousin, let's call him Jeff, M34, and his fiancée Sarah, F35, are getting married in Manhattan. So at Christmas they announced their engagement and said they were deciding between dates. Right after Christmas we get a text in our family group chat with a half-off deal for a hotel near the venue, no hotel blocks announced yet, with them saying the wedding date will be in October. A week later Jeff puts in the family group chat that they decided on a different date, one in March of this year, and that everyone who booked the hotel should get a refund. Not a great note to start on, but okay. I get an email invite to their black tie wedding in Manhattan in March. The venue is outdoors and there will be no hotel blocks or transport provided. They said we should just Uber. To me the black tie attire feels very rude on such short notice, especially since at Christmas they were debating whether or not to have an open bar to save money, very sparse florals, and a DJ. The wedding is going to be on the grass with the reception inside. This wouldn't be an issue if the wedding was cocktail, but making it so formal feels insulting and inconsiderate. On top of all of this, their registry is the bride's Venmo. TLDR, I got invited to a black tie Manhattan wedding via Evite with 3 months notice. Stories number 20. My dead girlfriend and my wife's dead boyfriend is the reason we're together. It's a fucking crazy story and I figured I'd put it on here. After seeing all of these stories from Reddit on TikTok. I know it's unbelievable but I don't care. It's a truth. Reddit as a story if you'd like. When I was 18 I met my GF Catherine. She was my age, met her at uni, loved her from the second I saw her. Fuck, I fell hard for her. I got 18 fucking amazing months with her from 2012 to 2014. She died in a car crash, dead at the scene. I felt like I died with her, I wanted to die with her, but I knew she'd be furious with me. First 2 years were the worst years of my life, I sat by her grave pretty much every day. Lost myself to alcohol. Firm believer grief doesn't lessen with time, you just grow used to it. Didn't get to visit her grave for about 2 years since I moved to New York to get my shit sorted out. When I moved back I'd visit her 2x a week. And I noticed I always saw the same woman there at a grave about 10 or so away from cats. Sometimes she'd be crying, sometimes she'd sit there, sometimes she'd go on her phone, sometimes she had a bottle of wine. But she was there a lot. After ABT 6 months we left around the same time and I figured I'd offer my condolences. She said she noticed me as well. She was grieving her boyfriend who drowned while sailing. I told her about Catherine. That was that. But for another 4 months I'd still see her around, we always left the same time so we'd make small talk. Eventually I asked her for a coffee, genuinely not romantically, and then, for the next year and a half we were friends. She was the only person who knew my grief, who struggled as I did. It was never more than friendship between us. No one was ready for more. And 2 years into our friendship, something changed and I fell in love with her. It didn't mean I didn't love Kat, I do, I always will. But somehow my grief cleared just enough to let me love Layla as well. I told her straight up, no bullshit, and yes, she felt the same. Started dating her in early 2020. Ended up quarantining with her. We're getting married in a week. I visit Kat about every 2 weeks now. I miss her, always will. But I think she'd want me to love again, she was that type of woman. Some people might hate this story, it's anything but romantic, but it's what happened. Husband died, solo mother. I'm 35, I found my husband dead 18 months ago when he didn't wake up one morning, he was 37. We have 3 children together, at the time they were 10, 7 and 8 weeks old, he was our surprise baby. I have since found out he died of an aortic aneurysm from a genetic condition no one knew about. We were married 11 years, together for 16. Each other's only love. I have been told by so many how strong, resilient I am. To me, I have no other choice when the children rely on me so much, to survive and keep going. My head thinks ahead to the future, will I ever find love again? How do I even do that? The stigma around single mothers, hey, I didn't choose this pathway in life. Why I prefer the term solo mother. I'm financially sound, mortgage paid off and extra invested. If anything good has come out of this situation, it's that I don't need to worry about money. I suppose my question is, it's such a unique situation I'm in for my age, is this a turnoff for a guy in the future? Stories number 22. My type in men did a complete 180 degrees. I actually wonder if this is common. When I was younger, I used to be really into the pretty boy look skinny dudes with more delicate features and fluffy hair. I used to go crazy for fluffy hair. However, now that I am older, I find myself not really being attracted to that look anymore. I can still recognize those types of guys are good looking, but the attraction is gone. Instead, now I find burly men with beards very attractive. I even find buzz cuts hot now. I also used to love men who were artsy and the type to write you a poem. However, now I am way more attracted to the kind of man who knows how to fix shit lol like cars and all of that. OFC, that's not always mutually exclusive, but before. The artsy type used to drive me wild, whereas it doesn't anymore, and it's not something I prioritize. I find this change in my type pretty amusing. BC, I never thought I'd be into those kinds of guys. Stories number 23. Entitled Mom demanded to know why I was at Disney alone, immediately regretted it. So I, 32M, was at Disney World last week. For context, my wife and daughter were supposed to be with me, but my wife got COVID 2 days before our trip. Since everything was non-refundable and my wife insisted, I went solo to not waste the tickets. I was in line for Space Mountain when this mom behind me started loudly asking her husband why some grown man would come to Disney alone and how it was creepy. I tried ignoring it, but she actually tapped my shoulder and demanded to know why I was there without kids. I turned around and said, my wife and 6-year-old daughter were supposed to be here, but my wife tested positive for COVID. Would you rather I brought them and infected everyone here? The look on her face was priceless. Her husband looked mortified and pulled her away to a different part of the line. The cast member who heard the whole thing gave me a free fast pass for another ride. Just because someone's alone at Disney doesn't mean they're up to something weird. Sometimes life just doesn't go as planned. Stories number 24. My boss played favorites but soon realized he was nobody's favorite. I work in a fairly small tech company, and a few months ago, my boss decided to schedule one-on-one meetings with everyone on the team. These meetings were supposed to be about how we felt about the company, our roles, and where we saw ourselves in the future. When it was my turn, he asked me about my future plans, and I mentioned that I wanted to eventually take on client-facing responsibilities. To prepare for that, I asked if I could shadow some of the client meetings he attended with the higher-ups. I figured it would help me get a feel for how those meetings worked so I could handle clients on my own someday. He seemed supportive and agreed to it. During a follow-up meeting, he announced that a few of us, including me, would start shadowing him at upcoming client meetings. He even mentioned a big one with a company called NT, fake name. However, he never gave me the exact date of the NT meeting, so I assumed it was still far off. Fast forward a few weeks, and one day I noticed my boss and the others he'd mentioned weren't in the office. When I asked around, I found out they were at NT's office, attending that meeting. Without me. Now, I wouldn't have been so upset about being left out if my boss hadn't already thrown me into the deep end during a previous client meeting. It was my first one ever, I had no experience, and I was essentially left to sink or swim. Spoiler, I sank. Afterward, he told me something along the lines of, any further failures like this will cost you your job. I was furious. He burned me by giving me no guidance or support, yet chose to nurture the others and include them in opportunities I'd explicitly asked for. It felt personal. That's when I decided I wanted to get back at him, even in a small way. The opportunity came when he planned to run a technical boot camp for the whole team. He was ridiculously excited about it, hyping it up for weeks. To make it happen, he even left his sick wife at the hospital so he could be in the office to lead the session. The day of the boot camp came, and I simply didn't show up. I was ready to take whatever backlash came my way for skipping it, but to my absolute delight, no one else showed up either. Not a single person. He ended up alone in the office, having neglected his sick wife for a boot camp no one attended. He completely lost it in the team chat, ranting about how much he does for us and how we give him nothing in return. It was glorious. I couldn't have planned it better if I tried. For once, it felt like the universe was on my side. Stories number 25. Wibta if I stop talking to my BFF if she stays with her cheater husband. TW, mention of abuse and self-harm. My F36, BFF, F33, has been with her husband for the past 7 years. In these years, he has been emotionally, financially abusive, sexually incompetent. He puts her down every chance he gets. He doesn't like her cooking as it's not how his mom used to make the food. He told her during their courting period that he's financially established and she won't ever have to work and can be a stay-at-home wife or do something related to her passion. Cut to now when she's working a night shift job and he's asking her for money to pay rent. 2 specific incidents in the past 2 months that have happened. He asked her to kill herself by hanging herself on a ceiling fan. She forgave him and was like because he was angry he said so. He was caught having an emotional affair with a girl on Instagram 4 to 5 days ago and is gaslighting her by saying that you are mistaken. It was not my intention etc. etc. As of the evening she wanted to divorce him but was angry that he was not doing anything to pacify her. Instead he made plans with his friends. Later she texts me that he talked to her and calmed her down a bit. I have known my friend for the past 12 to 13 years and after being a witness to all the abuse her husband has put her through I don't have the patience to be there anymore for her if she stays with him after his affair. I know it's her decision ultimately and her life but every week she has a fight, argument or issue with her husband and complains to me about him and I don't have the mental bandwidth to deal with her issues anymore. Wibta if I stop talking to my friend if she stays with her husband. Stories number 26. Aita for telling my mom my dead dad can't dance with me at my wedding when she told me she thought I'd ask my dad. My dad died when I, 29F, was 10. My mom's been remarried since I was 14. Her husband is Mike. Mike's fine but he's not my dad. He wanted to be when he married my mom and she wanted that too but I didn't. And because of that there's an underlying tension surrounding my relationship with Mike. They both felt like I should have allowed him to take on the role of a dad to me and they've always expressed disappointment that I was never open to that. Even though I get along just fine with Mike it wasn't enough. He has no kids so they felt like it was only right that a fatherless girl would try to let a childless man in so we could both have that relationship. I bring all this up because I know how my mom feels. 2 weeks ago Mike asked who I was walking down the aisle with I said I'd be walking myself. Then he asked who I'd choose for the father/daughter dance I said I was considering whether I'd ask mom or not. It was after this mom told me she thought I'd ask my dad to dance with me because that's tradition. And I knew she was talking about Mike. I knew she didn't mean my actual dad. But my reply was my dead dad can't dance with me at my wedding and I don't know how she thought that would work. My reply was not well received and my mom told me to stop being a brat and I knew what she meant. I told her I was giving the most honest reply because dad died when I was 10 and there's no possible way for me to dance with him. She told me she understood what I was doing and it made me a brat. I told her she shouldn't worry I'll ask her because this helped me make my mind up. She told me I owed Mike an apology and then her once I finished apologizing to him. Stories number 27. My 34M BF is upset with me, 32F, because I didn't make his plate and serve it to him during Christmas. Where do I go from here? Our 5-year anniversary is a couple weeks from now and we have a 2-year-old. I didn't know anything was wrong until we started the 5-hour drive home after spending the holidays with my family. He was quiet pretty much the whole way and snapped at me when I asked why he was following too close behind a vehicle and also driving fast. As soon as we get home he leaves without a word for a couple hours, gets back and says he went to the mall to buy a couple more gifts and some shoes for himself. I'm annoyed because I have been telling him for weeks to pick out shoes and I will buy them for his upcoming birthday *. He's really hard to shop for and picky about his clothes. So I asked him why he bought himself shoes when I wanted to buy him some as a gift. He says in rude tone, send me 100 then because that's how much they were. I finally asked him what his problem was and he was upset that I didn't make him a plate. I spent over 4 hours cooking for my whole family, also cooked for Christmas Eve the day before. I was tired. The holidays are exhausting. I couldn't believe he was upset about that. He seemed annoyed on Boxing Day because we ordered pizza and I made a plate for my stepfather who uses a cane. I told him to make himself a plate and he just sat there. He also said I barely looked at him during our visit and if I did, I didn't smile or look at him lovingly. Like I said I was tired, my 2-year-old was also extra clingy so I felt overstimulated and just tried to be present with my family. Lastly he was mad because I didn't go sledding with him and my family. I stayed back with my sister and baby niece and we watched a rom-com. I wanted to relax and have some me time, and he was upset about that, saying I just wanted to go on my phone, which I did. I got to watch TikToks and just scroll for a bit. Anyway, after we got home and had this conversation, I left upset and went to have dinner by myself while he took our child for a walk. As soon as I got home he left again and didn't come back for 4 hours. We have barely spoken and I don't want to be the one to sit down and start this conversation, to coddle him and make him feel better. I'm so sick of this. Where do I go from here? Update, BF, 34M, is upset I, 32F, didn't serve him a plate at Christmas dinner. Update, like an absolute dumbass, I stayed, I cried my eyes out and told him how I felt and he didn't have anything to say, just that he's sorry and will do better. We were okay for a week. Today is our 5-year anniversary, well would have been, he broke up with me today. I've had to stay home all week with our child because of a parasite and waiting for tests. On Thursday I got sick and still am sick with what feels like a chest cold/infection. The morning of our anniversary he goes rock climbing. I don't know what time he left but was gone until noon. I was pissed and texted him it would have been nice to have help while I rested. I cancel the reservations I made to the restaurant that we met at. When I told him this, he ripped up the card he got me, told me he's going to stay elsewhere and we're done. He said I am miserable and just want to be sad and that I make him pay with all the ways my dad failed me. Why father could care less about me and I have daddy issues lol asterisk. I don't think I'm being unreasonable for expecting him to spend the whole day or coming back early from climbing. I didn't even get a good morning, happy anniversary text. But it is what it is. Anyways, y'all were right, I knew it in my heart but didn't want to believe it. There's no coming back from this but I'm okay, thank you for letting me vent and for all of your advice. It's nice to come back and read all the positive support. Stories number 28. Aita, if I say no to meeting with my son's girlfriend's mom for coffee. My son 20M has been dating his girlfriend 19F on and off for 4 years starting in high school. I have talked to the girlfriend's mom on occasion when she would drop her off at our house or at grad parties, nothing more. The relationship in my opinion has been toxic and I don't think they are good for each other. The breakups always came after she would get jealous if he talked to another girl, like a peer in a class in college, and she would get angry at him for not responding to her the way she wanted. He would finally get fed up and break up with her. The last breakup was October 2024 and then in May 2024 they started talking again and wanted to get back together. This breakup was nasty, she said some of the most hateful things to him, things you don't say to someone that you supposedly love. In May 2024 her mother called me, she left a nasty voicemail that I still have not listened to but my husband did. He suggested I didn't listen to it. Fast forward to now, they did get back together in May. I know he is an adult and can choose who he wants to be with. We have talked with him and told him we support his decisions. We may not always agree with them but we support him. This is his life and we love him. We are good. We have been very kind to the GF and have included her in our family stuff, dinners, holidays, weekend trips. They have always gone well, just a bit awkward as she doesn't really talk to us much, but we keep trying because we love our son. After this recent weekend trip away the GF's mom texted me to meet for coffee. After everything that has happened, I really don't want to meet with her. So, Aita, if I politely decline the invite for coffee? If I say no, what should I say? Edit, I posted this for my mom, 49F, as she wasn't sure what to do but entire post was written by her. Any responses/comments are from me, 22F, 20 Ms. Sister. Update, against my advice and that of Reddit, my mom has decided to meet GF's mom for coffee. They are planning to meet tomorrow morning. I live out of state, but within easy driving distance, 2 hours, so I may go home and go with her since I don't have class and I think better on my feet and am much less of a people pleaser than my mom. We'll update again after the meeting. Also, she did take your advice and listen to the voicemail. She said she is upset about the contents and the GF's mom's angry tone, but is glad she listened. Stories number 29. Aita for defending my boyfriend against my dad. I recently had a baby with my boyfriend of 3 years, Nick. I work as a nurse with crazy hours and Nick previously worked in a warehouse. When I was pregnant, Nick expressed to me how he wanted to stay at home with the baby at least for the first couple of years as his dad was not in his life and he wants to soak up every moment of our child's life. We both agreed this would be best for our baby. I come from a conservative family and my parents were first not too pleased that we had a baby before marriage. My dad has made little hints here and there to Nick asking when is he going to make me an honest woman. When I told them Nick would stay at home with the baby, my dad took his glasses off, wiped his forehead and shook his head, but he did not say anything further. Recently at a family function, my cousin announced that she is pregnant. Everyone was giving her and her husband congratulations. My dad made a slide remark to them saying, "Talk to Nick here. He's an expert at the baby stuff." The comment was obviously meant to belittle Nick and my boyfriend just gave a nervous chuckle and nodded. Later in the day, our baby needed a diaper change. I was in the process of getting up to change him when my dad said to us, "Whoa, isn't that Nick's role? You do nothing while my daughter works. You can at least change a diaper while she is with her folks." I had it. I told my dad to stop with his remarks. Nick is an equal partner in our relationship and he is a wonderful dad who does most of the childcare. I told him just because he did fuck all of the child rearing for me and my siblings that does not mean all men need to be like him and he needs to get with the times because this isn't uncommon anymore. Things got awkward and mom quickly changed the subject to something else. My dad was pretty quiet for the rest of the night. After the event, my dad called me saying I disrespected him in front of our family and I was out of line. He said I insulted him as a father and to apologize. I told him I had nothing to apologize for and I was tired of him picking on Nick. My mom agrees with my father that I was too harsh on my dad.